February 15th, 2022 Parkland School District School Board meeting. We have a link for the live broadcast on the agenda, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Damon Goodman for introductions on the pledge, or Mr. Prones. Okay, wasn't sure who was doing it.
No problem. Good evening. Tonight, representing Fogelsville Elementary School for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have second grader Sage Johnson from Mrs. Hutchinson's class. Sage wanted you to know that she loves hot cocoa, so that'll be very helpful on a night like tonight. Her favorite subject in school is phys ed class with Mr. Webster. Her favorite sport is softball, and she loves the position of pitcher. When she's not in school, she likes to relax. However, her sister does not always let her relax, and she also likes to play video games. When Sage grows up, she wants to be a ballet teacher or an astronaut. And here supporting Sage tonight are her mom and dad, Lauren and Freddie, along with her sister, Zaria. And now here is Mr. Goodman from Schnecksville.
Yeah, stand right over here. There you go. All right, perfect. Good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce one of our Schnecksville Sharks, Cameron Liebensberger. He is currently a second grade student in Mrs. Mazzara's class. His favorite subject is science, and he recently enjoyed learning about different types of rocks in that class. His favorite encore subject is also gym because he gets to run around and play games with Mr. O'Brien. Cameron likes to play baseball, and his team name this year was the Avengers. So I can imagine with a name like that, the amount of talent that must have been out there on the field at that time. And I can attest to Cameron's strong arm because when we played catch out at recess, he did a phenomenal job throwing the ball back and forth with me. He also likes to build Legos and enjoys making his own creations with them. He likes to put this creativity to good use when he's also creating his Minecraft Legos, and that's something we share in common, which is with the building of the Legos and everything. So Cameron is here with his mom, Natalie, and his sister, Ava, and that's our introduction for Cameron.
Thank you. So if everyone please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, student recognition. I'll turn it over to Dr. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. And I believe Mr. Moniz, high school principal, is here. We have a very special occasion. He's going to talk a little bit about one student that we'd like to recognize this evening. I'll turn it over to Mr. Moniz. Thank you.
All right, Victor Kai, if you want to step forward, please. Good evening, Dr. Madison, members of the board, fellow administrators, and guests. Tonight, it's my honor to introduce Parkland High School senior Victor Kai on being recognized as a Regeneron Science Talent Search 2022 finalist. The Society for Science and Regeneron Pharmaceuticals Incorporated has selected Victor as one of 40 finalists in the Regeneron Science Talent Search in 2022. It is the nation's oldest and most prestigious science and math competition for high school seniors. The 2022 finalists were selected from more than 1,800 highly qualified entrants based on their project's scientific rigor and their potential to become world-changing scientists and leaders. Each finalist is awarded at least $25,000. The top 10 awards range from $40,000 to $250,000. As a result of Victor's achievement, Regeneron will also present Parkland High School with a $2,000 award to support the enrichment of math and science programs. From March 10th through 16th, Victor will attend the Regeneron Science Talent Search Finals Week to compete for over $1.8 million in awards. Once again, the top prize of being $250,000. Now, what exactly was his project? What did he do? Victor's project is titled Designing a Narrowband Radar Using GNU Radio and Software-Defined Radio for Tomography and Indoor Sensing. Essentially, Victor's project focuses on making short-term radar more efficient. But I'd also like to turn it over to him so he can tell you from the science point of view what it's really about.
Hi, my name is Victor Kai. My project was on creating a short-range distance sensing radar for indoor usage. So the idea is that a traditional radar uses a lot of power and a lot of bandwidth, and those interfere with wireless devices within the room. And so that makes it infeasible for an indoor radar. So I created my own algorithm based on a multi-frequency idea, and I was able to use over 100,000 times less bandwidth than a traditional radar and still achieve the same accuracy. So my radar was I was able to create a short-range distance sensing radar that doesn't interfere with other wireless devices for indoor usage.
Great.
Pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you look at this, we were talking even today, because with the $2,000 award, we have to discuss and present to Regeneron how we want to spend it. And I think, Victor should be a part of that decision as to how we get to spend that money, the $2,000. And he's a part of that process, so I appreciate the feedback you shared. And also I said, where'd you come up with that idea? And it was at other district-sponsored science activities and fairs that he saw something that similar, and it kind of piqued his interest, and he took it and ran with it in a much different and obviously very successful direction. So kudos to you. Victor's here with his family, Father E, Mother Chin, and also 9th grade brother Brandon, if you want to be recognized. Go ahead. Just want to thank them and congratulate them, but also thank them for inspiring such excellence in mathematics and science. So, congratulations, Victor.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you, and congratulations again. Moving on to the student representative report, Ms. Quintanilla.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy February. It's been 2 months since I've done my last student report. So we're going to start off with Kernsville. So the 3rd grade teachers decorated the hallway with the Polar Express theme for the winter holidays. And if one looks closely into the little train, you could see the passengers being the students, which is it's a really cute touch that they added. For the second picture, you could see the learning support classroom, and the teacher was giving the students some verbal classroom directions, and he was able to write it down and kind of show like a little bit more of that learning experience from the students. Next up, we have the Holiday Sing, which has all grades participating, and they were able to go outside and sing some holiday music and kind of get some fresh air. So that was really a cool experience during the holidays. Next up for Jandal, we have the 3rd graders designing snowflakes for the holiday months. Mrs. Smith's 4th graders working on 1-point perspective drawings in class, which helped them in developing depth perception in paintings. It's kind of a good way to get them involved in arts and maybe get them interested in some sort of artistic abilities, or they could go into architecture, which is also really cool for them to do. Mrs. Lewis' second grade library media class, learning about the different types of resources for research, and they are also checking the game Payable Go, which is a way for students to learn about subjects while boosting engagement. For Parkway Manor, we have the students' hallways, which was decorated for the winter season, and they were able to decorate some gingerbread houses as well, which you can see in the very top. We also had the officer come in, and they were able to learn about their DARE introductions, and he was able to teach them about the dangers of drug abuse. Next, they have a very special sing-along for the holidays, like Kernsville or Jandal, and they were able to kind of spread the holiday spirit around the classrooms. And then first grade working diligently during their Spark intervention as well. Next up for Ironton, the bookstore is back at Ironton, and the students were able to pick out their favorite books from the bookstore. The Olympics at Ironton also was really a good event that the students were able to participate, and Mr. Spat's students practicing their short track speed skating skills this week, which they put paper plates on the floor and they were just sliding around the gym, which was really exciting for them. The news crew is shooting for the Ironton Media Center, preparing for their Friday news down below. And then Miss Kishbaugh's music class of kindergartners singing Song of the Dragon in celebration of the Chinese New Year. And you will see Chinese New Year come up for another elementary school, which is a good way to spread that heritage around. For Day 100, which is also a really good event that most of the elementaries did, at Veterans Memorial, students were able to celebrate. And if you look closely, you can even see them dressing up as old people in one of the photos for the Day 100 of school. And then in the middle, will see Miss Rosen's class had some very special visitors to help them learn about the Chinese New Year. And the students met their reading goal, which rewarded them a game day where they got to hang out with friends and play a bunch of board games and card games as well. Next up for Kratzer's, kindergarten students are preparing for the 100th day of school as well and decorated the hallways with holidays and craft. Miss Murphy's third grade class had a glowing party at school where they were able to play with science and make some really cool experiments. The Kratzer kids not only decorated the hallways with decorations for the 100th day of school, but they also decorated with snow wintertime decorations, as you can see. Next up at Fogelsville, there's always unlimited crafts over at Fogelsville, like these amazing color paper plate drawings and the amazing mosaic hearts. And then lastly, the students were able to enjoy going to the library to unwind and relax with some books. Over at Schnecksville, you can see the Schnecksville Sharks set up their hallways with a lot of beautiful decorations as well, including a motivation board and some positive hallway messages. They were also able to celebrate the 100th day of school with some hats that they were able to decorate themselves, and some of the staff joined in by wearing festive clothing. They also had some other activities, including some gym day activities, and fourth grade band had some rehearsals. As for Citronia, the second graders surprised Miss Hardy by spreading the love and decorating her office. Miss Adams and the PAC members wanted to make a virtual paint night for the students where they were able to paint a hedgehog from the comfort of their own home, and you can see the Google Meet up there as well. Lastly, Citronia had an art museum of Art Week where they were able to become museum security, photographers, detectives, and critics to make it feel really extra real. And then as a side note, the Parkland elementary students as a whole also beat their math minute goal by over 200%. Their goal was originally 200,000 minutes, and they were able to beat it by 442,000 and some minutes, which was really, really a good accomplishment. Next up for SMS, the first middle school dance team prepared for their performances. The SMS stage group preparing for their spring play. We had the boys basketball with their first undefeated season in SMS history, which is amazing. They also had the SMS National Scripts Spelling Bee finalists, as you can see on there as well. And then lastly, History Day took place at SMS, and they were able to show their amazing products they have worked on for so long. And the sixth grade class also did a science experiment to incorporate some fun into the classroom. And then for OMS, to get rid of the winter blues at OMS, they did a crazy hat and sock day, and some of the staff even joined in, you can see. And then the OMS staff and students had a blast making a video, and they were able to dance and think it was to spread a message around the school. And then this was really nice. They had a bus driver appreciation. So a bus driver was really nice to go up and tell how well behaved his students were in the bus, and they just to let them know that they were really happy to have the opportunity to drive with them. And then lastly, over at PHS, we have Miss Sawyer's Honors English class students performing the Alturans Alive assignments, where they were able to act out some literary works. Next, congratulations to PHS students and Coach Keller, who participated in the EPC Chess Invitational Tournament. Great to see Parkland alumni at the PACTA Symposium exchanging books with Miss Rachel Mann, who is a famous keynote speaker. And then Parkland basketball teams, both women's and men's, have been having a really awesome season, and they were able to celebrate their senior night recently as well. And they are right now in the EPC finals. And then lastly, Mr. Parkin was a great hit and had a great show for everyone to see. And we have, I think it was Jared Sussman who became the next Mr. Parkland. It was a really, really good show. And then lastly, for the school district announcements, the annual district-wide food drive starts next week. Please consider sending in a contribution so we can make an impact to an entire community. 5th grade parent night is at OMS and SMS on February 16th at 7 p.m. And then the Caring Foundation is offering the Peak Performance Student Athlete Prevention Program for athletes, parents, and coaches. And then the program focuses on increased stress and performance anxiety that many students and athletes face. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always nice to hear about the goings on in the schools.
Yes.
Before we move on to the approval of minutes, just information item for people, whether you've been here before or not. As we go through these items, it may seem like we approve them quickly, but these items are all vetted in committee meetings prior to meetings. We've had a chance to ask questions on all of the items and have those answered and more information presented as needed. So just want to make that announcement publicly that these have been vetted in advance. Moving on to item number 6, approval of the minutes. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second?
Any comments or questions?
Yes, the meeting minutes for 6.02. The adjournment vote should be 9-0, seeing as though we swore in J-Row hockey to the school board that evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one more comment, President Hein. Just reading the January 25th. So agenda item 6, approval of minutes. This is for all of them, correct? Comment on each of them? Are we going to go through one at a time? Or my comment is on the January 25th minutes.
Sure.
It's just that if I read the comments, the public comment, the summary of public comment here, I don't see anything. It doesn't appear to be like an accurate reflection of the sentiment of the community in the public comment. It says things were made, lots of statements were made on behalf of Jay Rohatke, but I don't see any notes where someone in the community raised a conflict of interest question, et cetera. And I'm not sure. I just think that's important that a lot of these comments were against Mr. Rohatke being appointed. And I just don't see that being reflected in the minutes. I only see things in support. So if I wasn't at this meeting and I were reading these public comment summaries, I would think that the community was in full support of Mr. Rohatke being appointed to the board, and that was not the experience that I witnessed.
Thank you. Can we go back and make those changes, or?
I can, yeah. Just for clarification, when I create the minutes for public comment, I do use the yellow forms. So depending on the general statement that the public makes on those forms, that I then use to convert into those. I don't do detailed comments from the public.
And that has been the practice that we've had for many years. Are we okay to approve that?
Only if the board is in agreement with what's been stated. If the board believes that the description on the minutes is sufficiently descriptive of what occurred, then the board's going to have to indicate that. If the motion is being made to correct the minutes, you can either vote in favor or against.
So we have a motion and a second on the table to approve the minutes as is, so we would need a motion to adjust item 6.02. Is that correct?
Well, it'd be a motion, I guess, to correct the minutes in accordance with Mr. Coleman's description of what he thinks the content of the minutes should be. I mean, it's based on your own individual recollections. I mean, he's offering his recollection of what he believes the content of the minutes should reflect. And he's asking, I presume he's making a motion to correct the minutes. Is that correct, Mr. Coleman? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Usually I can see the video so I can compare minutes, but the video isn't available. But my recollection was that the community was pretty polarized at that meeting. And it was not just people speaking to support.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all fully understand what your comment is.
So it would either be an 8-1 here or do what you do what you suggest to reconstruct the minutes, whatever you want to.
Well, the board has to be in agreement to correct the minutes. So you'll take it. The motion is to correct the minutes along the lines that Mr. Coleman has suggested. And is there a second to that motion? If so, you can take a vote, and it either is passed or not passed.
So amending the motion to, or do we have to have a motion on Mr. Coleman's?
So I'll make a motion.
You'll
to
go ahead and make
amend-
the motion, yeah.
Yeah, I would make a motion then to amend the minutes to reflect my remarks.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that motion.
All right.
I do have a question, though. If we're amending or adjusting those minutes, don't we need to then go back and amend in more detail? What you're saying was you want more detailed public comment?
I don't even know if it needs to be detailed, just it does, just not a lot more detail, but I just didn't get that from reading that.
Because we public comment at committee meetings.
Well, I guess the board has to understand what in fact is being corrected. So if you're suggesting that they add words to those comments that you believe were not in support.
Yeah, so I would go back and I'd have to, if we have the video, I just know there were things missing. There were multiple people that brought up.
Well, maybe the best way to do this is just to table the approval of these particular minutes, and that way we'll have more time to reflect and decide exactly how to go about doing this.
So make a motion.
Yeah, it's technically a motion to lay on the table.
Yeah.
So a motion to lay on the table 6.02 only, or are we doing all of the minutes?
No, I'm sorry. We're just going to lay on the table the approval of that January 25th?
Yeah.
Right, January 25th. All the other motions, I'm sorry, all the other minutes can be approved as they stand.
All right, so I'll make a motion to lay on the table item 6.02. Are there any opposed to that?
This is Rob Cohen. I'm opposed to that.
I think the minutes are fine the way they are.
I oppose it.
Well, I'll second it.
All right.
Guess we should
So
vote.
then we'll have to vote. So motion and a second. All those in favor
Aye.
and opposed?
Aye.
No.
No.
President Hines, since I was not member of the board at that point, I'd like to abstain on this vote, please.
Sure. So I hear 1 for, 1 abstention,
No.
and 7 against. So that does not pass.
So what happened?
So moving on to the approval of,
The motion that we approved them
Nobody's
as
using
is.
minutes.
We're not going to table it.
right.
Okay. All right.
So now moving on to the approval,
All right.
the initial motion that was on the table to approve the minutes 601 through 605. We have a first and a second. We've had comments. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay, and I'd just like to comment that I don't think it accurately. I just don't feel that the minutes,
We had the,
I just don't
Your
think the
comment.
minutes reflect all positive comments for the ultimate chosen candidate and sweep the
And-
dissenting comments under the rug.
An abstention?
And President Hyman, since I was again not member of the board at the time, I'll abstain.
On 6.01? Mr. Hagi on 6.01 only?
Yes,
And 6.02?
on both, please.
Okay.
I'll need the form. I'll get you the abstention form then to fill out. Thank you.
All right, moving on to report of executive sessions. Mrs. Frisbee.
Yes, the board had an executive session on February 1st, 2021. The topics of the session related to acquisition and sale of real estate and facilities, staff hiring, organizational changes, and policy violations, status of pending litigation filed in Lehigh County Common Pleas Court, and status of pending issues related to maintenance and upgrades to the high school sewage treatment plant.
Thank you. Moving on, number 8, acceptance of treasurer's report. If I could have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to number 9, review of 2021-2022 district goals at mid-year. Dr. Madison?
And we have Dr. Minotti, who's going to take us through those. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure tonight to give you a mid-year update on the goals that were approved earlier in the year. We're going to start tonight with safety, which is led by Dr. Tony Naradko. Tony has just done a fantastic job maintaining the safety and the security of our building and our entire school district. 2 of the completed goals, and we'll be focusing on the completed goals that are here right now mid-year, even though you have many goals that you saw in the report that was sent to you. The first is the implementation of Act 18 of 2019 and the necessary professional development for 21-22. That's the Act 18, that's the legislation that was put in place for threat assessment teams for the school. I was part of that planning as a principal, and it's nice to see how Tony has educated the entire leadership team on this evidence-based research model regarding school violence. This model was part of what was called the CSTAG. It's a comprehensive school threat assessment guideline that came right after the Virginia Tech shootings. And it was like based on Dewey Cornell's 10-year evidence-based research. And now it's the gold standard for threat assessments. And just really proud of the way Tony has put that together for the team. He's also implemented security improvements established by the Crime Prevention through Environmental Design Program. And what that is just the door signage that needs to be put up and the police see it. It's the notice given to the public and to the persons. This is an ongoing goal for Tony, but obviously there were many completed for this year. In curriculum instruction, that's led by Ms. Kelly Rosario, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development, and Diane Nykum, working with her team, Dr. Jason Henry, Dr. Adrian Kashner, and Dr. John Pfeiffer. They have done an outstanding job in C&I this year. Their leadership is commendable, and it's just wonderful to see those completed goals when you're walking around the buildings this school year. So first thing I'd like to talk about is the implementation of the Building Block Science Program. That's K-5, and that's supporting teachers with the hands-on science investigations. This is a great program, and it's inspiring students, including my own kid, who is in 4th grade and cannot wait to do the squid dissection. So some really neat things are coming out of that. If you remember, that was a goal from the year prior, but the professional development piece has been extending this year. The remediation opportunities, K-12 with learning loss due to the pandemic, that's completed, and that was done at all 3 levels. Extremely proud of Ms. Rosario and her team, working with Mrs. Dorenzo's team, with the principals, the teachers, to create that solid remediation plan. The principals worked really closely with their teachers and students to ensure that we're meeting the kids' needs and we're finding ways to adapt as we go. At the elementary level, after the new year, this is the 7th week of a 12-week program. It's a before and after school tutoring program using the ESSER funds. The team began the tutoring and then benchmarked the students, and now they're assessing that data to see how the students are improving. And we're seeing gains in that as well. This tutoring is focused on numbers and operations because that was the greatest area of concern. In the middle school, they're using the Timberwolf and Jaguar time, and that's built into the schedule weekly. They also have before and after school tutoring, and they're working on some summer programs as well. The high school offers different times throughout the week. It's communicated to kids, and it's on the core subjects. So when kids need help, they can go to the cafeteria or the library to get that support. Her team's also developed a course catalog for Parkland Virtual Academy, which was formerly the Parkland Cyber Learning Program. And Dr. John Pfeiffer's just done a tremendous job. He took what Parkland offers in Ingenuity, our cyber platform, and he created offerings for our virtual academy. In the assessment and data analysis world, Dr. Adrian Kashner has been doing a terrific job working with the principals, identifying those areas of need. And I know that there's been some presentations that you've seen recently, just looking at the learning loss and how we're using data to make sure that we're identifying the needs of the kids and putting measures in place to support that. Dr. Kashner has also been working on PVOS reporting tools and investigating a universal screener for students K-12, especially in grades K-3, aligned with our Reading by Grade 3 initiative. That's the Acadience program that's being piloted with the ECRI schools. That's the Enhancing Core Reading Instruction. And they piloted that at 3 schools this year, Kernsville, Fogelsville, and also Veterans. And they really love the way this phonemic instruction merges with the Wonders program, and they're really happy with that. Professional development, Kelly Rosario and her team, again, making sure that they're on top of not only the student needs, but the needs of the staff as well. The professional development at the start of the year was really important on the social emotional learning and inquiry-based learning. In September, basically we all got together and we identified the ongoing needs of our kid. The kids are in school now, let's identify their needs, and let's come up with some ways we can meet the needs for the students. She also developed a walkthrough form aligned to our inquiry-based learning, and this was completed in collaboration with our leadership team, and we used those for the fall walkthroughs that we got to do as a team, and they were just really the highlight of our weeks, which were wonderful. She expanded those walkthroughs for our administration, and when we got to walk around, we got to identify strengths and any areas of concern. That was completed for the fall, and our team looks forward to doing that again in the spring. We're going to be looking at that tool again to see if we need to amend that in any way. And then the ultimate goal would be to use the same tool to allow teachers to do their own learning walks as well. And some of the things that we're finding just in the fall, high evidence of teacher nurturance, that they really know the kids that they're working with, student engagement and investment in learning. And we're always looking to see more of the student voice and choice being used in the classroom. Also expanded the use of safe schools for mandatory and the suggested PD that was pertinent to the district goals and mandates. We completed that in collaboration with student services, human resources, safety, and technology. The technology department, this is just a great team. Although not new to Parkland, Mr. Tom Durhammer, Director of Technology, and Mr. Ed Kobus, the Assistant Director of Technology, are both new to the roles that they're working in. And they're doing just a tremendous job partnering with curriculum instruction this year. Although technology is very important, and we, of course, identify those needs, really trying to make sure that it's not just the only tool that we use, that we look at the instructional process with that. Some of the completed goals are as follows. The implementation of PowerSchool Unified Talent, which is an applicant tracking system. I want to give Ed Kobus a shout out and the whole HR team. They did tremendous work streamlining this process so that applicants, when they complete their application to our district, it's on an online platform. They also have the implementation of 2,400 new Chromebook devices, sustaining the Parkland Ready 21 District's one-to-one initiative. That's in 1st, 5th, and 9th grade. That was completed at the start of the year. They deployed refreshed devices for PHS teachers, middle school tech labs, and Padcaster iPads. They were all refreshed. They increased the bandwidth needed for robust personalized learning by upgrading the bandwidth of our wireless and wired infrastructure to the latest standards throughout and with the security. They fortified the cybersecurity posture throughout the district with continuous training, upgraded endpoint protection, and new firewall installation. That's the security awareness training, the know before, and the safe schools that's being rolled out. That's the phishing situation if you're getting any of those fake emails, and the video trainings to improve our awareness and, of course, the safety of our district. They've improved the support experience for all stakeholders by implementing a new support ticket and asset management system, which makes it easier for users to request help and streamline that process for all technicians. They facilitated the easy use to key information documents and resources with a new intranet and a new educational technology website. The EdTech website launched in October, and it continues to be updated. When I was ready to send you this like a few weeks ago and I was working on this, I think we had 7 videos And then J.R. Renna, who's on fire with these videos, I think he's up to like 16 now, and they keep coming. So he's doing a great job. They created a library of StudySync resources and updated many other pages on the digital tools. Simplified the user experience by providing Google single sign-on for core applications such as Schoology, Teacher Access Center, Clever, and more. This single sign-on is an easy one login password. It's a one-time connection, and it saves time and increases instruction. And also, they prepared and verified the student enrollment and educational program data for the 2021 Civil Rights Data Collection, which is a biennial collection. And a huge thanks to Liz Dold and Ed Kobus for getting that report in. In student services, Mrs. Brenda Dorenzo, Director of Student Services, has been doing an outstanding job working with Andrew Weber, Val Golich, Steve Baer, and Danielle Rowland and Sherry Deeb. This year, the goal was met to really meet the kids where they're at and really try to identify their needs and find ways to help them grow. Many of you know we have a great SWIBS program, the School-Wide Positive Behavior Program in our elementary schools, and they continue to keep that strong, especially during this challenging time, to make sure that the kids are having a positive experience in school. The middle schools also have a SWIBS program, and they also have the anti-bullying program as well, which is the Take a Stand. One addition this year that's been completed at the start of the year was the character counts at PHS, and that's been going really well. There's 6 pillars in the character, using trustworthiness, respect, responsibility. These lessons revolve around the students, but they're also giving teachers suggestions how to follow through in class. They've also implemented a new Period X at the middle schools. These are weekly meetings to identify the needs of the students based on the teachers on the team, and they're supported by the team as well. Mr. Gambos and Dr. Sant and his team leaders and data instructional specialists have worked very closely with the teachers, organizing this and making sure that they're meeting student needs. They also had the expansion of the MDSB continuum at OMS. This is completed. There were classes at the elementary level, and the continuation of the program continued on to the middle school for services. They retrained all secondary learning support on Read 180 and Math 180. Just had a huge turnover in staff, and Ms. Dorenzo felt it was really important to make sure, gave the other teachers a refresher, and made sure the new teachers and everyone was on the same page. They completed the cyclical special ed monitoring. That was the state audit, and I was lucky enough to be on that and hear Mr. Andrew Weber do an exceptional job. If that is now complete, and the preliminary conversations have shown that we've done exceptionally well, and now we're just waiting a formal report issued in the next few months. The Kindness Crusade, many of the activities are completed, and you saw those at the last board recognition night. The principals and the teams have done a great job getting the kids to come together and obviously trying to bring our community together as well. One area that I'd like to make note of, although this is in progress, are the tremendous work of Sherry Deeb, and in collaboration with our department, our leadership team, all the staff members, our community. She's just done a great job to make sure that we monitor the COVID and update procedures and the programming as necessary. In school services, Mr. David Keppel, he has been just working very hard. There's a long list of things happening there. So much appreciation for how he leads his team and how hard they all work, especially with our team and our principals. There's a lot on the list that you've received, but some of the ones that I'm going to highlight are the ones that are near that completion. He continues to work with the team members from Alvin H. Butts and KCBA Architects to oversee and finish the construction of Project 2 for the Schnecksville Elementary School. That Project 2, the classroom addition, is ahead of schedule, and some areas of the new addition will be occupied as early as this April 2022. So just really happy that it's on target. He's going to continue to manage the construction project of rebuilding the upper bus garage work. That's with the Spillman Farmer Architects and the 4 contractors to achieve completion in November of 2021. The bus garage building is complete. They're still waiting on the water line, and that's still delayed because of some of the supplies. The school service department has been working with KCBA and the Alvin H. Butts in the design and development of the Kratzer Classroom Edition. The Kratzer Classroom Edition design and the specifications are complete, and the project was out for bid. And we're happy that we've received those bids, and Mr. Keppel said he's very happy because it's under budget and on target to begin construction in April. In financial management, Ms. Leslie Frisbee had an excellent transition into this role. working with Mr. Vignon, and she's really hit the ground running. And obviously, as a business manager, you work with numbers a lot, but you're really taking a vested interest in our community, getting out in the buildings and really identifying the schools and the leaders and doing what she can to build that connection. One goal for both HR and the business office has to be continue building that collaborative working experience between HR and the business office. That includes monthly meetings between the two departments, focusing on areas that contribute to the quality customer service for our employees. In that process, they have routine meetings between Pam Kelly, Linda Nagy, Leslie, Jess Afflerbach, Marcia Houston, and I know that Angel is also a part of those as well. Monitors the financial markets for potential bond refunding opportunities to achieve financial savings for the Parkland community. The refi was done in the fall, and it's ongoing because we're monitoring that for future opportunities. Monitor the business office software systems for potential upgrades and enhancement to increase efficiencies. That required the eFinance Plus upgrade that was scheduled for February and completed as of today. So thank you to the tech team for doing that. And monitoring also and complying with our ESSER ARP grant requirements, and just working with curriculum, special ed, building and grounds to ensure the funds are spent in a timely, in accordance with all those grant guidelines. And human resources. Pam Kelly and her team are just doing an amazing job, as you can all imagine. This is not an easy time to try to make sure that our buildings are staffed with subs and all of the staffing from the bus garage, food services, and we've gotten really creative and collaboration with many of our teams, and Nicole's been a part of that as well. So just grateful that they've been able to bridge that gap, and we're starting to see some growth in those areas. She also works on this leadership training series, and although there's a process to this goal, I thought it was important enough to highlight. We've got a lot of leadership turnover happening, and one thing that Pam's been really proud of and trying to establish is leaders training leaders in the district, and she's having them do video series and being able to be mentors to some of the leaders coming in. She's also working closely, as I mentioned, with the Director of Public Relations, Nicole McGalla, to expand the use of social media to recruit our candidates. Also hiring to continue to meet year-round staffing demands in all areas. That is a everyday, weekly, monthly demand. Also HR training and team building. They have obviously newer staff members, so they're working again with the business office to create that collaboration. I gave a shout out earlier to the Talent Ed program in HR, and that was also one of their goals as well that was completed to maximize and utilize technology. And they're in compliance with the sexual harassment training for all staff in the fall of 21. All the employees completed that training, and each year HR just has to make sure that the policy, procedures, and the training, and that we're compliant. And that's a lot of tracking on their end, but they just do a tremendous job. So I know there's a lot there. You guys see the goals, you approve them in the beginning, trying to give you a quick mid-year update to just let you know where we're at to date, and those are just completed goals. And just really proud of the team and how hard they're working to continue that, so that at the end of the year I can come back and give you all of the goals. Thank you.
Mr. Foos.
I just want to say how Parkland proud I am of hearing all these goals and the incredible work the administration has done up to this point. I mean, I'm an advocate for a student-centered education, one where students are able to use their imagination and creativity to harness knowledge, and then in turn to use their critical thinking skills to make magic happen, like we saw here tonight with the individual who was in the final for the science thing. Well, in any event, I just wanted to say, great job, keep up the great work. I'm beyond proud of everything all the administrators, all the teachers, everyone that works at Parkland does to keep the train running on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Any other comments?
I don't think so.
Great job. Thank you. Nice
you.
update.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 10, public comment on agenda items. Before we start, I want to read the relevant portions of the policies and the regulations that govern public comment at our board meetings. The applicable school board policies are 903, public participation in board meetings, 903.1, use of electronic recording devices during board meetings, and the administrative regulation is 006 AR 00, request to speak at board meetings. The policy and regulations are available on the district's website. Only persons who have filled out the request to speak form prior to the beginning of the meeting will be permitted to provide comments. When it's your turn to speak, I'll call you to the speaker's podium. You do not have to state your name or address since that information is included in the request to speak form that you completed. You'll have a total of 3 minutes for all of your comments. This time will be strictly enforced, although as board president, I have discretion to allow additional time if necessary and appropriate as you're wrapping up. No placards or banners will be permitted within the meeting room without prior approval. Recording devices are permitted, but you need to register your intent to use the device prior to its use with Assistant Superintendent Dr. Rodney Troutman. Under no circumstance may your recording device interfere with the ability of the board and others to participate in the meeting. Thank you. We have several comments tonight on agenda items. The first, Mike Milo.
Mr. Hine, if I could just make one comment as he's coming up. Just a reminder to everybody in the audience that we have a pretty large crowd today, and whether you recognize it or not, the acoustics in this room are not fantastic, but the one thing that it does is it projects conversation up here. So to be mindful of that, when someone's talking, please just keep the conversation to a minimum so that the board and everyone can hear, and then also the audience can hear any comments from our guests. Thank you.
I'm Mike Milo, and I'm here to discuss the political theater that we all experienced approximately 3 weeks ago, the Jay Rahagi selection process. I want to ensure that people understand what happened versus what is reflected in the minutes. 12 citizens stepped forward to serve the community, only to discover that one applicant seemed to have been pre-selected. Many stated that this was not a political process, yet the Upper Lehigh Democrat Club enlisted the assistance of Congressman Susan Wild and called upon activists to influence this board. One actor stated, "I don't know Mr. Rahagi, but I'm here to speak on his behalf." The appointment was highly political. We expect our school board to be unbiased, objective, and open-minded, yet bias was clear in the deliberations and the voting. Marissa Ziegler, you had a well-crafted statement on behalf of Jay, and this would indicate that your mind was made up before the meeting. One interesting fact that you brought forth was that although he had lost 3 elections, Jay received more votes than any previous school board candidate. Well, by that premise, President Trump should be reinstated, as he also received more votes than any previous president. Lisa Roth, you expressed concerns over personal nature of public comments. I'm interested in which comment caused you the most grief. I didn't hear a single disparaging statement towards any one individual. Facts were stated and possible conflicts of interests were questioned, but personal attacks were non-existent. Carol Fasciano, unlike Marissa Ziegler, you stated that you walked into the meeting with an open mind. After seeing all 12 presentations, you voted with the 6 other board members. Now, this was not a completely random process, but the likelihood of 7 independent thinkers.
Mr. Milo, you're out of order.
Single candidate.
Mr. President, he is out of order.
And then
The parliamentary rules of the point of order. The parliamentary rules of procedure require the person who's addressing the board to address all of his remarks to the president of the board. It's out of order for him to address individual members of the board. It's a point of order.
Thank you. Please.
This was not a completely random process, but the likelihood of 7 independent thinkers coalescing behind a single candidate out of 12 is improbable at best. In fact, the equivalent random probability is less than 3 in 10 million. Mr. Foose made a very dramatic and emotional plea on Mr. Rahagi's behalf, despite nominating someone else. The broadcast of the meeting is still not posted on YouTube, and the minutes are deceptive. Is it the concern of this group that the public might see firsthand that the fix was in and that their elected representation is politically biased?
Thank you. The next speaker is Christina Holsinger.
They cannot address individual members of the board. All the remarks have to be addressed to the president.
Good evening. Monday was a big day for many kids. Some parents took photos because it felt like the first day of school. As I sent my kids in for the day, I wished them a happy Valentine's Day and said it was good to see their smiles and be kind to everyone. I do always remind them to be kind. They were in good spirits when they got home, chattering about their day. My daughter, who's in middle school, said a lot of people also seemed on edge. A few of her friends confided in her today that they kept their mask on because they were afraid they wouldn't get yelled at by their teachers. Their words, not mine. You see, choice was given back. Well, actually, it had to be read between the lines because it's still recommended to be masked. Another friend told my daughter that she felt so weird to have her face uncovered because she's used to wearing something. My second grader told me his cheeks felt cool when he first walked down the hallway because he wasn't used to being covered. Do you know what the opposite of cool is? It's warm, not almost hot. You see, I didn't tell my kids, guess what? We hit tier 2. I said to them, you get to choose finally, and let's pray it sticks. What was created during COVID was a policing district, a mandate that gave power to authority and backing the people to criticize, belittle, berate, mock, intimidate, and devalue and embarrass. If you think this isn't the case, where the teachers told otherwise, where there were signs that was considered the right way to mask and what a superhero is. So what about the child with a speech issue who has to wear a face shield? What about the special needs that can't wear one due to being nonverbal? And how about the one who has an exemption because all masks make it hard to breathe without getting daily headaches? Are they not showing their Panther pride? Are they really selfish? What we're having to do is backpedal. See, these tiers have no place in a district like ours in our community. Parents are very capable of choosing if a mask is appropriate for their child's needs or health, just like they choose if their child buys, if they pack them pudding, lunch, it's what's best for their child. We have kids who have been told for 2 years straight that standing up for their basic right to breathe is actually wrong, selfish, and punishable. So how is that teaching them to stand up for their basic needs? It's a transition now and a reset to know there's a place where they need to feel safe. This stems from the top down. Bullying, and sadly, is always something that needs attention and monitoring that falls on both the parents and the staff. However, what happens when that bullying is coming from the top down? Are these children there? Are these children, their children are younger and they want to be respectful to authority, but they're not confident enough to speak up. So it's time our youth is also supported and can learn together and thrive, accepting each has personal choice and that we are much better together and respected than we are apart. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bill Holsinger.
Good evening. I'm going to keep mine short, much shorter than that. I'm a numbers guy, I do numbers for a living. I just want to start off by thanking the administration, Dr. Madison, for making masks optional. I just want to state some numbers here. Like I said, I'm a numbers guy. And I took these online, off of the internet, so if the numbers aren't exact, it's the best I could do. I looked at a lot of school districts throughout Pennsylvania. Believe it or not, there are some much larger than Parkland School District, and they have been mask optional since December 13th. One being Central Bucks. Central Bucks has over 18,000 students. 18,000 students. These numbers are all through January 31st, 2021, and they go from January 31st of 2022, and they go from August of 2021. All the same data, all the same time frame from 3 schools. So I'll start with Central Bucks. 18,000 students. They had total cases of 1,823. 1,823 total cases. Comes out to roughly 10% of their total student population. Okay, then you go to Council Rock School District, which I don't know if you read the news or not. They just voted to eliminate all their COVID information online. They were still reporting it to the state, but they removed all their data as of, I think, 2 weeks ago. So you can, I don't know, you're going to have to contact the school district for that. But they have 10,778 students, 2,005 cases, 19% of their population tested positive. Then we come to Parkland. Mask mandated through the entire time, 9,572 students, 1,905 cases. That's 20%. So just to give you an idea, Parkland, mask mandated, 20% of the students tested positive. Council Rock, 19%. Central Bucks, 10%. 10%, 19%, they were mask optional since December 13th. Not only that, they had less cases total than Parkland in January during the surge. January cases for Parkland, 1,167. Council Rock, 1,101. Central Bucks, the biggest one, 706. So I hope we don't backpedal on this mask optional, because obviously masks do not work. And I would hope as a school board, you would reach out to these other school districts that must be doing something else to make sure the cases are lower than ours. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Beth Whitehill Finch.
Good evening, everyone. I will start by saying that I am beyond happy to know that these kids finally have the choice to breathe freely. But make no mistake, unfortunately, this is far from over. Myself and many others in the community, including some teachers and staff, are very concerned with the tiered plan we currently have in place. Yes, we are now in Tier 2, but how long will we be here? How long before the media says we have another variant and you move us back to Tier 3? You can't continue to say you're listening to the CDC when they've already said most masks do not work. You already decided to go mask optional, and to backtrack on that would be even more detrimental to these children's mental health than the damage you've already done by implementing an illegal mask mandate in the first place. To state that all students need to have a mask on them at all times while at school is absurd. Put masks in the nurses' offices, in the training rooms, and offer them upon entry. Stop trying to affix our children to these faulty masks. When will you realize this has gone on far too long? It never should have happened. There always should have been choice. Perhaps masks don't do what you were convinced they do, as we've seen. The only way for anyone, including kids who are vulnerable, to stay truly safe would be to stay home, follow CDC guidance to a T for those at high risk, and to keep your child completely out of the public to avoid these risks. But most parents of these very kids, except a few whose children are severely compromised, don't want to give up in-person learning because all the years prior to COVID, they've never kept their kids home or masked them. If a child is so endangered that they want every child masked to protect them, then you as a parent who loves your child would never send them to school with such risks at hand. If everyone must be masked to protect a few who have never been masked before, when will it end? In the Central Bucks School District, as you just heard, the largest suburban school district in PA, they've been mask optional. They have little outbreaks, no deaths, and no issues. We're now seeing a trend of schools dropping local hospitals' logos from their health and safety plans. Coincidence? Or is it that they're finally looking at their own data and something isn't adding up? To think that St. Luke's has any good intentions towards us or our children is definitely a stretch based on the letter that I'm sure you all saw written by the president and CEO. To say that St. Luke's cares about our children's best interests in one comment, and to tell Southern Lehigh that St. Luke's will no longer collaborate or provide information to them related to COVID or other public health issues in another comment is just plain hypocrisy. End the ties to these entities and get rid of this tiered plan so our kids can be genuinely free. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Elowidge.
Good evening. Thank you for your leadership during this difficult time. And I was thinking about tonight, I've lost count about the number of times I've spoken to you on various issues through the last year. But every time I've given a great deal of thought about what I was going to say. And I've been thoughtful because I believe that words matter and the way that we speak to each other matters. And I gave a great deal of thought, and I've been really looking forward to the day that I felt I could prudently stand here without a mask, and thank you for getting us to that point. I don't think that that's today, and not necessarily because I think we're a little bit early on it. The way that it was rolled out does not rise to the standards of Parkland. The formal communication lacked specific data. It lacked discussion of how the decision was made, and it was late. If we really have been at tier 2 metrics, that could have been communicated 2 weeks ago. We could have given those folks who were really excited for that day some relief early, some room to celebrate. And those families that were a little bit concerned could have had time to think about how they were going to adjust, how they were going to talk to their children, how they were going to talk to their teachers. We missed that opportunity. Dr. Madison, that doesn't rise to the level of what championship teams do. But what great coaches do, and I think you know this, when they haven't played up to their standards, they acknowledge their mistakes and they commit to doing better. I hope you'll do that as we go forward. But that mistake pales in comparison to the communication that came from the board on Facebook. In an 11-word Facebook post, we found out masks were coming off. And it wasn't like it was coming from a member of the public who happened to be there. It came from a board member, so that carries some weight. But there were questions. Based on what data? When? All schools? How are teachers going to be told? There was an absence of formal communication for 2 days during which people who were concerned, and I understand there were a lot of people really excited for this news, but there were a lot of people who were really concerned and had a lot of questions. And what did we have? We had chaos and confusion and rumor. And is this the way we're going to have new communication in our district? Do I now have to monitor 9 Facebook pages? Or are some of you like LinkedIn or Twitter fans and I have to dial into social media to understand where the district is going and prepare my family for it? Those questions are a little sarcastic, but the real question is this. If we tolerate this type of undermining of your formal communication process, how can we trust to the strategic, thoughtful communication of the district? How can we trust that we will know if we want to know what's going on and tell our kids what to expect and prepare them to be successful in the school, that we have one voice to listen to and we can be confident waiting for it? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Ashley Rock.
Hello, good evening. First and foremost, thank you to the administration for getting us here to this day. Mr. Coleman, thank you so much for advocating every day for our kids. I thank you. Although we are making great strides to normalcy, this is not over for our children. I'm not going to stand here tonight and advocate that my opinions and beliefs are more important or more correct than the family who differs from mine. I'm standing here to tell you that they're both important. Hence, we should all have the right to make the best decisions that we see fit for our family. I'm also here to tell you tonight how much we need our community back. This pandemic has caused more of a divide than ever before, and our children are the victims. Excuse me. My most important question tonight is how can we move forward as a district to prove to our children it's okay to have a difference of opinions and beliefs, to still be friends, and most importantly, to stand up for what they believe in. Unfortunately, over this pandemic, I've watched my 3 very confident, funny, outgoing boys start to question themselves and their beliefs. And that hurts. That hurts very much as a mother. Do you want to know what my child said to me on Monday? We're all very excited that we have our right or our option to wear a mask or not. He said he would rather wear a mask because he's ugly and he doesn't feel like he belongs. I know I'm probably not the only parent that went through that, and it breaks my heart for these kids. These kids are resilient, yes, but the mental toll the last 2 years has taken on these kids is irreversible. I'm begging for the school board and parents everywhere, but mostly in this room, to make sure they hold this high in your thoughts. Our children's mental health has suffered immensely. Our children need us to stand up for them, and our teachers need us to have their back. We have to find a way to close this divide as we move forward with their smiling faces in the classroom and gain trust within our neighbors again. I stand here tonight wholeheartedly in favor to keep our families having a say in our children's health and well-being. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christine Block.
Hi, it's nice to see you guys again. I'm grateful for the change in the health and safety plan. I had the good fortune that I was at the committee meetings last Monday night, which are open to the public, which I was not aware of until recently. And I got to hear Dr. Madsen and see the presentation regarding moving to the tier plan. And it was a relief for me to see this. I kept that information from my daughter because I was afraid like it might change the next day. And I was grateful when we got the official email. My daughter's in kindergarten and she's 6. She did not go to preschool last year because we were fortunate to be able to keep her home because I wasn't sure about COVID in the classroom and wearing a mask. And I'm grateful and privileged that I was able to make that choice. I was nervous about sending her to school this year and I was looking at a variety of options. Her words when I talked about masking being recommended, she's using the word choiceable. I roll with it. So here's what she told me in 2 days of mask being choiceable for her in kindergarten. She said, my teachers are so much louder. I was able to play in gym today without getting a sweaty face, and I can't wait till next week till Mr. B can really see how fast I can run, and I get to have fresh air all throughout the day. It's so much easier for me to recognize my friends and remember their names and understand what they're saying to me. So we hit the 100-day mark, so it's taken her 100 days to remember what her friends' names and faces look like. She asked me when the bus will also be choiceable because she thinks it's crowded. She might decide to wear a mask on there because it's loud and people are very close to each other. But she said maybe on those sweaty days, she might need some fresh air. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Our youngest kids have really taken the burden of this pandemic. The adults, we're going to make it through, but our little ones, they are struggling. And as we came out of this, I really hope Parkland continues to take mental health seriously. Don't take their I'm willing to wear a mask as compliance because they don't know anything else and they're rule followers. I hear the word resilience a lot. Our kids are resilient. They're resilient. They've been resilient for almost 2 years. Their resiliency, it's going to come to an end. And I just hope that Parkland has the staffing and the guidance counselors and everything to support these kids as we come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Nicole Snyder.
Good evening, Parkland. First, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I hope I'm actually truly heard. As we all know by now, COVID-19 has been around since at least December of 2019. That December, kids across the world attended school, did sports, other extracurricular activities. Families gathered for birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, and other venues such as weddings. No masks, no worries. Do you know when the frenzy all started? That's right, months later, when Mr. Fauci, you heard me correctly, Mr. Fauci told the world how SARS-CoV-2 is a deadly virus that started in a Wuhan, China market. I say Mr. Fauci because the moment he lied to our country, along with the rest of the world, by saying this virus was not man-made in a lab, he lost all his credibility and merit to be called doctor. Over the course of the last 2 years, I have heard countless times, quote unquote, follow the science, and that, quote, kids are resilient and will bounce back. Guess what? Aren't we all resilient? Don't we all bounce back? Obviously, some faster than others, just like the kids. Do you know what else? Don't we all hit a breaking point? I think so. My question is, have we really followed the science, or have we followed politics, money, and corrupt men and women who call themselves doctors? Sounds like a whole lot of follow the money to me. Additionally, why is it that third world countries are using medications such as ivermectin and Plaquenil and having outstanding results, yet the US is denying that as care both preventatively and as treatment? Have you ever looked at a list of those who are mandated to be vaccinated and wondered why? Have you ever wondered why the vaccinated still get COVID-19? My entire household had COVID-19, and the one vaccinated member of the household suffered worse than the rest of us. Now onto the masks. When are we going to realize that masks make us feel protected? They're a false sense of that protection. Has anyone ever seen a painter with an N95 on and 2 layers underneath for protection while they go to paint a house? I have. And when that painter removes his layers and his N95 and he blows his nose into a black cloth, you can see all of the white paint particles. Pretty unbelievable. But ask yourself, if those large paint particles can make it through all of that, what makes me think a virus, minuscule virus, can't make it through a cloth or surgical mask? Time to wake up, people. Be educated, make logical, informed decisions. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope we please keep the masks optional.
Thank you. The next speaker is Pamela Prue.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here because I'm concerned about the children in our state and in our nation, and I know you all agree that they're the best asset we have in our country. They're our future. We owe it to them to allow them to enjoy the freedoms, and we're all in the age where we remember the freedoms we had when we were young. We never had to wear a mask in school for anything, not when the flu season was bad, not when there was chicken pox and mumps, and I'm in the age group where there was no vaccine for chicken pox and mumps, so you just got it. There were no worries for that. And I think it behooves us to start to listen to professional doctors, not government agency, CDC and other government doctors, people like Dr. Marty McCary, who, as a side note, grew up and was raised near Danville, Pennsylvania. He's a top scientist and doctor with an MPH and an MD, and a top scientist at Johns Hopkins University. He's got many things. He's been on many podcasts, news. You're welcome to go on the internet. Dr. Harvey Reish, Yale College, and also Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford Medical School. These are true physicians who know what they're talking about, and they have all stated mask mandates do not work, and masking children does not work. They worry about the repercussions. Harvey Reish and Dr. Bhattacharya have stated while there are many minimal benefits to kids wearing masks in school, the downside could be socially disastrous. Kids relate to friends and classmates through smiles and identity of appearance, and a mask literally takes the identity away and makes it more difficult to understand one another. If parents wish to mask their child, so be it. If not, the choice should be respected. I have grown children, both graduates of Nazareth School District, who, by the way, also did away with their masking and made it optional. My son is 21, my daughter's 24. My son's in his 3rd year of college. He was a speech kid. And I am so grateful that we didn't have any of this going on when he was in school, because it would have been difficult for him. He was in speech from the time he was 4 at preschool age because he had delays. And he did phenomenally, went on to college, is doing great. And I am so grateful for that. I am asking you to please don't go backward. Please forge ahead for the sake of these children. I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of research, but I did manage to look at 40 different school districts from different counties across Pennsylvania. A lot of them did away with their masking in October, especially Indiana County, Western Pennsylvania, Armstrong County, Sullivan County school districts in the northern tier counties. I have several here from Cumberland County, East Pennsboro School District, where I graduated high school, and so forth. But there is over 100 more.
Thank you.
And I'm asking you to please take that into consideration. God bless the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, God bless the United States, and God bless our children.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jenna Varga.
Good evening. My son came to 1st grade at Parkland as a new special needs student this school year, glowing with kindness and compassion and seeking new friendships. He thrives on feeling validated and included and loves to make people laugh. He was met with discrimination and bullying within the first 3 months of school because he doesn't wear a mask. My child, whom is protected by IDEA, has a preferential seating in his IEP. He was separated from his peers in his first grade turkey show and told to stand next to an orange cone in the far back right corner of the room. Where should he have been, you ask? Great question. He should have been in the front of the room near his teacher or learning support aide, where he could be redirected and prompted, as he often requires with non-preferred activities. Instead, your staff took the liberty of making an example of my child, of how students who have legal medical exemptions from their doctor will be treated at Parkland. Imagine how this made him feel. In that moment, was he given the free, appropriate public education, free of discrimination, that he is legally entitled to with his disability? No, he was not. After checking with the principal, I was given excuses ranging from behavior to health and safety plan to my favorite one of them all, from the director of student services. The cone was just left there from gym class. This incident made several things very clear for me. My son was not treated equally at the school with a mask exemption. I cannot trust anyone to be honest with me, no matter how much I want to believe them. And your staff's actions were unlawful, discriminatory, and no one is monitoring this. One of the many times afterwards when he brought up how sad it made him feel, that he was told to stand next to a cone away from his friends. I broke down in tears, apologizing to him and telling him how sorry I am that I was not there to protect him. He said to me, and I quote, "People make mistakes, Mommy, and that is okay. My 7-year-old autistic son has more integrity and compassion than any of you sitting there who choose to continue to strip the freedoms of these children." Countless emails from this community go unacknowledged by this board if they don't align with your political and financial agenda. Many of you have been witnessed in public unmasked, but it's ironic how that news never makes it to the morning call, or how quickly any truth is deleted from Parkland Parent Support Facebook group run by one of these board members when it contradicts his personal views. In closing, I will just say that I will never allow you to take freedoms from my children again. One day this will all be over and you will eventually have to learn to live with COVID just like we live with the flu. One last sentence, please. I do honestly feel sorry for all of you who live in the deepest, most paralyzing grip of fear that you can no longer act human. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jenna Stansky.
Hi, it's wonderful to see your face, Mr. Coleman. Thank you for being such a great leader on the board and in our community. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for giving us our human right of choice back. I, like many, feel that the decision to go unmasked for ourselves was long overdue. To that point, I would like to remind everyone that we have no idea what the long-term effects of the masking of the children during this pandemic will be. Studies are beginning to surface, covering the negative effects already, and it's not looking good. My point to the board specifically is that your choice in mandating masking will have lasting consequences to the families in this district, most importantly, the children. And those consequences should not be forgotten. I've heard classmates saying things like, I don't think I look good without a mask on, so I don't want to take it off. And I have lots of acne now, and I don't want people to see it. My question to the board is, what will you be doing to restore the mental health of students in this district? Each of you who voted for these mandates are accountable for the consequences. I know that at least I and my family will be keeping our eyes open for studies revealing the harm that your mandate has caused. We will continue to remind the families of the Parkland School District as studies continue to come out who voted for the policies that harmed their children. We will not forget. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker in this section, Natalie Janaka.
Good evening. The stories that we heard are just heartbreaking. And I don't really have much to say, but you already don't know that what I'm thinking. I do want to explain what the definition of insanity is. That is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. So masking, if it would have worked 2 years ago, it would have worked, right? And now you've created this underlying fear and anxiety for kids to be able to take off their masks and look like human people. I have to say, like sitting here, I mean, I appreciate you guys being here and holding a meeting, but you can't hear, like, you hear every fifth word. I mean, it's really, really embarrassing and insane. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Would there be more comments? I fill out a form.
Yeah, there is public comment on non-agenda items, and that comes at the end.
And there was a couple of comments that had multiple items that could be non-agenda and agenda, so we're putting in, yep. There's a stack here. Moving on to number 11, Academics, Arts, and Athletics Committee, Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. The committee recommends approval of the Parkland Summer School Program for high school and middle school students from Monday, June 27th, 2022 through Thursday, August 4th, 2022. There will be no Parkland Summer Program July 1st through July 5th, 2020. We're gonna have to fix that, 2022, for the Independence Day holiday, and I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 11.02, the committee recommends approval of the following overnight field trip, the PMEA Region 5 Band Festival in Newville, PA, from March 11th through 12th, 2022, and I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Aye.
Mr. Cohen, you have a question?
I do not.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to Buildings and Grounds, item 12, Mr. Foos.
Item 12.01, the committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached service agreement between Service Electric Cable TV and Communications and Parkland School District, providing for data transmission service from Springhouse Middle School to the Carvin Lehigh Intermediate Unit number 21 for a base rate of $1,250 per month. The agreement has a 5-year term commencing on July 1st, 2022 and ending on June 30th, 2027. The district will apply for E-rate funding, although the agreement is not contingent upon its receipt. If received, the effective monthly rate will decrease by 50% based on historical E-rate funding, and I so make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 12.02, approval of quote from TWG Security for purchase of new and replacement security cameras. The committee recommends accepting the attached quote dated January 5th, 2022 from TWG Security, Emmaus, PA, for the purchase of security cameras for the new construction and replacement of outdoor cameras of the existing building at Schnecksville Elementary School. The contract is in accordance with the CoStarz Cooperative Purchasing Program, in which TWG Security is a PA CoStarz vendor. The total cost of $42,887.01 will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and I make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 12.04, Approval of bids for the
Three.
Kratzer, sorry,
We have
approval
12
12.03, my bad. Approval of construction change orders. The committee recommends that the following construction change orders be approved. Veterans Memorial Road Improvements, CO number 7, Grace Industries, credit for not paving driveway, deduct $3,700. Schnecksville Project number 1, CO number 1, Metro Design, unused contract allowance, deduct $17,492. Schnecksville Project number 2, CO number 1, Detwiller Roofing LLC, credit for change in roofing material, deduct $9,000. And finally, CO number 1, Wind Gap Electric, labor and material to install cabling for additional security cameras, add $15,278.90. And I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
The committee for 12.04, approval of bids for the Kratzer Elementary School Classroom Addition. The committee recommends the award of the following contracts for the Kratzer Elementary School Classroom Addition pursuant to the requirements of the contract documents, included but not limited to the execution of all contract documents by all parties, the receipt of certificates of insurance, and the receipt of all required bonds. BP01 Earthwork, apparent low bidder, Empire, $1,458,700. BP2 Concrete, apparent winner, Panzitta, $338,000. BP3 Masonry, Whitmer, $434,035. BP4 Structural Steel, Zoke Brothers, $576,500. BP5 Metal Stud Drywall, Duggan and Marcon, $1,596,820. BP6 Roofing, Alan Koonsman, $425,280. Ceramic/paver Tile, Sean Byrne, $127,450. Flooring, Metro, $192,725. Painting, Dectus, $72,300. BP10 Casework, NEIS, $407,000. Curtain wall/glazing, Huts Glass, $299,700. BP12 HVAC Mechanical, JVM Mechanical, $769,000. Plumbing, BP13 Vision Mechanical, $442,365. BP14 Fire Protection, SA Communal, $109,988. And finally, BP15 Electric, All Barrel, $1,195,000 for a total price of $8,444,863. And I make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
President Hein, I have a comment. Just let me make the same comment for agenda items 12.4, 12.5, 12.04, 12.05, 12.06. I'll be voting no on everyone. I think we can do better.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries 8-1.
12.05, approval of agreement with Cohen Associates, Inc. for Citronia Elementary School. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached agreement between Cohen Associates, Inc. and Parkland School District to provide professional services for a fee of $47,926 for field surveying, engineering, and construction administration and inspection to replace, reconstruct the staff and visitors parking lot at Citronia Elementary School. The fee will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries 8-1.
Item 12.06, approval of agreement with Cohen Associates, Inc. for Fogelsville Elementary School. The committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached agreement between Cohen Associates, Inc. and Parkland School District to provide professional services for a fee of $12,250 for field surveying and engineering to prepare a conceptual design for a new bus loop and parking lot at Fogelsville Elementary School. The fee will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and I make that motion.
Thank you. If I can have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries 8-1.
Item 12.07, award of bids for purchase of gasoline. The committee recommends that the board award the different price on the gasoline 8,500 gallon delivery bid to Petroleum Traders Company commencing on March 1st, 2022 and ending on June 30th, 2023. Whitehall Copley School District is a joint participant with Parkland School District with respect to the specifications and receipt of the bid for gasoline. The Whitehall Copley School District plans to award the bid to Petroleum Traders Company at their February 28th, 2022 board meeting, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Item 12.08, award of bids for purchase of diesel fuel. The committee recommends that the board award the differential price of diesel fuel bids to Petroleum Traders Company commencing on March 1st, 2022 and ending on June 30th, 2023. Whitehall Copley School District is a joint participant with Parkland School District with respect to the specifications and receipt of the bid for diesel fuel. The Whitehall Copley School District plans to award the bid to Petroleum Traders Company at their February 28th, 2022 board meeting, and I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And finally, item 12.09, award of bids for purchase of number 2 fuel oil. The committee recommends that the board award the differential price on the number 2 fuel oil bid to Petroleum Traders Company commencing on March 1st, 2022 and ending on June 30th, 2023. And I make that motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Personnel and Finance, Ms. Fasciano.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. Item 13.01 are personnel items. I'll start with retirements and resignations, item A through G. Request for child rearing leave of absence, item A. Request for extension of child rearing leave of absence, item A. Request for FMLA, and that's item A through G. Change of status, item A. And employment of personnel, item A through B. And also an approval of the day-to-day substitute list, which is listed in the board agenda. And I make a motion to approve this item.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Just like to comment on the first 2 retirements, Dr. John Pfeiffer and Dr. Scott Watson, combined total of 72 years in education. They will be deeply missed in this district, and they've done a lot of good through their careers, and I thank them for their service. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 13.02 is the graduate credit reimbursement. Graduate credit reimbursements for personnel who have properly submitted their credentials and receipts as appended. It is recommended that these staff members be reimbursed at the contracted rate, and I make a motion to approve this item.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries.
Item 13.03, the committee recommends that the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached software lease agreement with Business Information Group, Inc. to provide for the use of licensed software for the administration and collection of the local services tax for the term April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023, for an annual lease payment of $3,960, subject to renewal in accordance with provisions as set forth in the agreement. And I make a motion to approve this item.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And item 13.04, this is the second reading and approval of the following board policies: Policy 006, Policy 610, and Policy 611. All policies are listed in the board agenda. And since this is the second reading, we will be taking a vote on this item tonight. So I make a motion to approve these items.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And that ends my report.
Thank you. Item number 14, 14.01, approval of revision number 3 of Parkland School District Health and Safety Plan for the 2021-2022 school year. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached Parkland School District revision number 3 of the Health and Safety Plan for COVID-19, effective for school year 2021-2022, herein called revision number 3 plan or plan. The revision number 3 plan shall be signed by the president of the school board. Since the plan may be subject to further revision from time to time as required by changing circumstances or Commonwealth orders and guidance, the superintendent of schools is hereby authorized to implement changes to the plan as necessary, and thereafter, when required by the nature of the changes, may submit a revision of the plan for review and approval by the school board. This revision number 3 plan shall be distributed electronically to all school district staff and parents, guardians, and students, and posted on the district website. If I can have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
President Hein, I have a comment I'd like to make. I'll be voting no. I don't want any part in any type of plan that suggests masks should be placed on children's faces. The only time I'll be approving or voting on this is to end this tier program. But that's my statement.
Thank you. Any other comments? Please let the board speak and conduct its business. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries 8-1. Moving on to item number 15, Special Education Agreement. The administration recommends the board approve and authorize the board president to execute the attached Whitehall Copley School, I'm sorry. This item, thank you for the reminder. The agenda item 1501 for approval of agreement with the Whitehall Copley School District. The agreement for approval is still being reviewed by council and is not approved or is not available for approval at this time. The agenda item will be shelved until March 15th, 2022 board meeting. I'd like to make a motion to set this on the table.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Thank you. And if there are no objections, we'll set this on the table till the next meeting. Thank you. Moving on to number 16, Student Affairs. It is recommended that student 2021-2 be expelled from Parkland School District through the end of the 2022-2023 school year. If I can have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
President Hein, I have a comment. I'm not comfortable expelling a student. I know nothing about why he's being expelled, so I'll just be voting no.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion carries 8-1. Moving on to reports. 1701, Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, Mrs. Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Hein. The CLIU had their board meeting in January. It was Wednesday, January 26th. We kicked off with an executive session to go over some litigation topics. Then Dr. Ide pointed out that our child count numbers were at everyone's desks, and those that were participating virtually, they were mailed. I asked Kelly to attach, so they're attached to board docs if anybody wants to take a look. We typically don't attach them, but I just asked her so you could see what we're getting each month, showing the actual numbers of students receiving services through the IU. So there's 2 reports attached there tonight. 2 new CLIU board members were approved and seated right away. We have Jeremy Glausch from Lehighton and Jennifer Senovadis from Northwestern Lehigh.
Then we had a presentation. Our presentation that night was School Age Speech and Language Services from Susan Luciano. This department is comprised of 15 staff members, and they service approximately 420 students, anywhere between 15 to 360 minutes each month. They use assistive technology, is often utilized. There was a question that was brought up from one of the board members. Do you find masking causes issues with speech therapy? And the answer from Mrs. Luciano was that if a student has a problem wearing a mask, then they check with the parents and see if it's okay, and they set up like a plexiglass instructional area instead. And that's proven to be working very well. The board also voted and approved the ESPA, the support staff contract. And we also approved the proposed 2022-23 Youth Forestry Camp Program. And I had reported on that in my last report about what that program involved. George Williams from Whitehall Copley was nominated and elected to take over as the CLI board president. We had a review of the health and safety plan for the IU, and there is no February meeting. We never have a February meeting, so the next one is March 21st. That concludes the IU, and I'll jump right into Parkland Community Library.
Thank you.
We met on Thursday, January 27th. In the executive director report from Debbie Jack, the final 2021 donations total was $16,267.50, which was outstanding. And Debbie credits most of this to the annual report mailer that went out last year. That garnered a lot of interest in the library, what was going on. She received a lot of phone calls from people wanting to know all the services of the library. So it had many benefits, not just the donations. The Parkland Library also received a $14,192 grant from the Institute of Library Services American Plan. This is a limited use grant that the library will be targeting to use towards workforce development, specifically laptops and hotspots to lend out to folks, monthly programs on interviewing, resume writing, and job searches. Tori Morgan also nominated the Parkland Library for a Greater Lehigh Valley Energy and Environment Innovation Award grant based on our expansion project, and we should hear if we got that by the end of February. Bob Longley, who is the library's insurance agent, is going to be at our February meeting to discuss the library's coverage. Let's see, and the president's report, Kathy Osmond, she brought up the recent short staffing issues that the library faced after the holidays due to the COVID cases among the staff members, and thanked Debbie Jack for all she did to keep the library open as many hours as she possibly could. The donation breakdown, Kathy mentioned again, how great that was, and about the annual mailer generating so much more interest in the library. And now that we have more in-person foot traffic in the library, looking to possibly redesign some of the open public areas in the building to better utilize the space. So I ask any community members who go into the library and you see how all the areas are set up, if you have any ideas, please throw them at us. We'd love to, design those according to what the needs are. Bylaws for the library work continuing with our insurance agent in February, since he's going to be there. And then once he goes over our insurance portion in the bylaws, then we're going to send those to our attorney to review. And we'll hopefully have that finished set. The treasurer's report, Lisa Luciano gave that to us. The board members went over the audited financials, voted to approve the statements. Let's see, program revenues that from what the library runs decreased $10,000, unfortunately, due to COVID. Salaries also decreased, and that was due to COVID because of the shorter hours that everyone was working. Lisa Luciano also requested, we're going to discuss an endowment program action item at one of our future board meetings. And let's see, committee reports. The Friends of the Parkland Library are going to be back in action on May 9th. They're going to have their first on-site event at the library. Ellie Lobner, who is a clothing historian, will give a presentation on the flapper era and styles. It's only going to be open to members and one guest. The Friends Room over their bookshop also reopened on February 1st. And in June, the Parkland Library is going to have a two-day garden party fundraiser, so be on the lookout for that. And then our meeting concluded with Debbie Jack presenting what she calls a What Your Library Can Do For You, a community resource slideshow that highlights all of the library's services and events that have been done, what are planned to be done. And she's looking to present this at various community meetings. South Whitehall, North Whitehall, Upper Macungie, the township monthly meetings, Rotary clubs, temples, churches. So if you have a group that would like to have Debbie come and present this about what the library is now doing, you know, what we have available in the new expanded building and just all the online services, a lot of people are not aware of what is out there. There was also a further discussion got generated about possibly creating a live action Parkland Library video that could be put on the website and then will just be on a continuous loop. So actually, I jumped in right away and suggested that Mrs. Jack contact Jay Greff up at the high school. And I did send an email to Jay ahead of that, and he's gotten back, and we have some students up there at the high school that are interested in helping put that together. So that was great. I thought that'll be a nice little project for them to help us out with. So we appreciate that. And that concludes my library report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
LCTI, Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. The LCTI JOC met on January 26th. The policy committee met, the facilities meeting, there was public relations, education. We also held an executive session, and then we held the joint operating committee meeting. We began with the nomination and election of chairperson, which was held over from the December meeting due to the election results not being certified. The committee nominated David Hine as the JOC chairperson, and they voted to approve him. Under the chairperson report, Mr. Hine welcomed 5 new members. There were 2 new members from Southern Lehigh, 1 from Whitehall and 2 from Parkland. For our student report, we heard from Ethan Andrew. He was a student at Whitehall Copley School District. He was from the FBLA, and he discussed the FBLA State Leadership Conference. There were 17 members from LCTI recognized at the regional level, and 14 were advancing to states. For the admin report, we first heard from Dr. Rushton, who discussed the District 11 Skills USA Championships happening on February 4th. The event showcased nearly 400 of the top career and technical students in Lehigh, Monroe, Northampton, and Upper Bucks counties. Winners will represent the region in the Pennsylvania Skills USA Championships in April 2022. Dr. Greenewalt shared that LCTI was awarded the SREB Pacesetter Award. The Pacesetter School Awards recognize schools that are implementing one of the SREB's Making Schools Work school improvement frameworks and are achieving success in meeting bold goals related to increases in student graduation rates, readiness for college and careers, and credential attainment. Mr. Kapadia discussed the wireless infrastructure project updates. There was 1 grant approval. The PDE awarded LCTI the competitive equipment grant in the amount of $48,000 on December 21st. There were several personnel items which are listed there, as well as several curriculum items. As far as the committee reports, the Personnel and Salary Committee made a motion to approve the Act 93 Administrator's Compensation Plan for 5 years. Business and Finance, we saw budget presentations for the General Operating Fund and Academic Center Fund budgets. There was a motion to recommend forwarding the following resolution to the participating districts for their approval in the 22-23 General Operating Fund and Academic Center Fund budgets, and the resolution is listed there. The Facilities Committee had no motions, but they gave us updates on several projects. Policy, we had 8 policies for second reading and approval. Policy 006.1 will be edited and up for approval at the next meeting. 2 policies were up for first reading, none were up for review. Public Relations Committee had no motions, but discussed the new video on the website featuring interviews with administrators, updates to the website. The student content blog was rolling out soon, and they discussed the online application process. The Education Committee had no motions, but they told us that they have 300 online applications so far. Again, that was as of the end of January. For the Animal Science Program, 13 out of the 25 available seats are already filled. We approved several new Occupational Advisory Council members, as well as conferences, financial related approvals, and miscellaneous items, which again are listed on my report. That concludes that. Should I go into CAC?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the Community Advisory Council met virtually on January 20th. The CAC heard a budget presentation from Ms. Frisbee. Leslie discussed the objects in the budget, ESSER funds, the Act 1 index, and the board resolution to stay within the Act 1 index. The student reports included information about upcoming events such as food drives and the end of the second marking period. They gave updates on girls and boys basketball, girls wrestling, diving, band students advancing to regionals, and the spring musical. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to Education Foundation, Ms. Fasciano.
Thank you, Mr. Hine. First, I want to mention the grant applications. It's open for all staff members to apply for the 2022-2023 Celebrate Innovation Grants. The grant applications will be accepted until April 1st. So any staff member can submit those. I do want to announce the 2022 Distinguished Alumni Wall of Honor inductees. The foundation usually recognizes 4 or 5 individuals, Parkland alumni, for achievements that they've been submitted through a nomination process. I want to announce the 4 that will be celebrated this year, hopefully in an in-person gala, which I'll mention later on as I get more details. First, I want to say, and some of you might know these people, some are in our community. Joe Bergstein, graduated in 1989. He's the Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of PP&L. Aaron Breed, class of 1992, founder and editor-in-chief of Kazoo Magazine and also an author. Jared Brown, graduated 2014. He has pretty many accomplishments that I'm going to mention. Community volunteer, Michaela's Voice, Miracle League, Canine Companions, Kernsville Elementary, Camelot for Children, countless toy and food drives, Good Shepherd and veterans organizations, and Man Nights, Victory House, Reese Across America, and Wounded Warrior. And Brian Knaus, graduated 2009. He is the co-founder and CEO of a project called OWL, a capital O-W-L. It's a fascinating project, so if you Google that, you can get more of the details. Also, these individuals will be celebrated at the gala, and they'll all be giving their speeches and going into more depth of what they've done. This I was going to say for roundtable, but I have to mention, I am making a prediction that Victor Kai is going to be on the wall. Someone that we recognized early for the science. I mean, I just have this prediction. So, and that ends my report.
Thank you. And moving on to Lehigh Carbon Community College, the Board of Trustees met on February 3rd, 2022. Some general business was approved, approval of minutes from the January meeting, as well as financial reports. The President's report should give an update on enrollment. The spring 22 enrollment and credit hours are slightly above the spring 2021 numbers, but below spring 2020, as well as what was budgeted for spring 2022. PA Commission for Community Colleges quarterly trustee report is attached in the links on the board agenda, and includes a link to a recent op-ed from L-Tri-C and Northampton Community College trustees. President's Desk newsletter from the college is also attached to the email. It includes links to stories about Parkland School District and LCTI graduate Paige Knowles and her journey at LCTI, as well as L-Tri-C in the plumbing trades. The link to her story and several other L-Tri-C students is included in the links on the board docs under the program Be Anyone, Start Here. Personnel, Curriculum, and Government Relations Committee reviewed the community meeting notes with presentation to L-Tri-C to the board as a Hispanic serving institution and SPIRA programming. L-Tri-C was designated as an HSI, the Hispanic Serving Institution, in 2017 by the U.S. Department of Education for having an enrollment of at least 25% undergraduate full-time equivalent Hispanic students. And SPIRA is a community of mutual support and empowerment among Latina students, Latino, and Latinx students. To reach this goal, L-Tri-C created a 1-credit SPIRA first-year experience seminar, which will discuss how to navigate college, succeed in academics, and identify personal and career goals. Also, a resolution to update policies and regulations manual for students, student records, and academic regulations, student withdrawals. Finance and Facilities Committee gave a report, review of the committee meeting, minutes, approval of upgrades to AV equipment in the ballrooms, in the community services center, as well as classrooms in the science hall, and approval of feasibility study for touchless fixtures in the college laboratory rooms. There was no negotiations committee report. The joint coordinating committee reviewed the minutes of that meeting. And the foundation, Trustee Foundation update, save the dates for outings, clay shoot in June 17th at Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays, Golf Classic on November 19th at Lehigh Country Club, and Fall Fitness Fest on November 5th at the Schnecksville campus. Moving on to the joint coordinating committee meeting, which is LCTI, LTRI-C, the IU, and the Carbon Career and Technical Institute. We heard presentations from LCTI on their capstone co-op experience, from a half-day co-op to a full-day co-op program, and how it was really well received by the students as well as the employers. The employers get to have the students all day, and then the students are with the employers 4 days a week in the classroom, 1 day a week, as well as touching base throughout the week with their teachers and doing their homework and other schoolwork throughout the week after their work. We heard a presentation from LTRI-C on institutional resilience and expanded post-secondary secondary opportunity grants program, as well as a presentation from the IU on their Toy Adoption Day, which is collaboration among the CLIU work-based learning students, LCTI students, and Jim Thorpe High School students. There were 41 toys that were adapted. These are regular toys from anything with switches and things like that that students with handicaps may not be able to use or access. And through the collaboration, the students rewire them, put switches in, and make them useful for students with special needs. So it's a really great program, and I know we've seen that here before on the board. And moving on to the last report on the legislative update, the governor proposed his final budget for the next year. The Senate and House of Representatives, they were in session last week. The General Assembly is now in recess as the House and Senate Appropriation Committees conducted hearings over the next several weeks to examine the 2022-2023 state budget proposal. The House will return to session on Monday, March 21st, and the Senate on Monday, March 28th. Again, the governor's budget proposal for 2022-2023 is just a proposal. There is a proposed spending plan for $8.6 billion for basic education funding, which is a 22.2% increase. There's also a line item in there for increase of $200 million for special education, as well as putting some additional money through the funding formula. So hopefully a lot of that will get through, but there's a lot of work yet to be done by the legislators, and hopefully we'll come out of this with an on-time budget. Are there any other reports?
Mr. President, this is Mr. Cohen. I have an additional report.
Yes.
I'm reporting on the Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee as it has joined the Multicultural Awareness Committee. These two committees are now merged, and we have met twice. This reports on our January 27th meeting that was at the Parkland Administrative Center. The meeting was held in person, and at the time when the majority said they could meet utilizing a survey that was sent out after the December 1st meeting. A recap of that meeting is such. Introductions were made. The group included about 30 people in total, and everyone introduced themselves. Secondly, we had updates since our first meeting, and our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Kelly Rosario, our Director of Student Services, Ms. Brenda DiRenzo, and our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Michelle Minotti, outlined updates as followed. The Kindness Crusade project, which the board saw updates on in January, was showed to this committee for two schools. The Citronia and the Schnecksville's efforts were highlighted. There was a introduction of an inclusion practices that in May we will have a Parkland parent to speak to this group about his experience in raising a son with special needs and how he and the students around him have all benefited from the inclusion practices at Parkland. In March, it was highlighted all Parkland staff will receive a refresher training on inclusion best practices. It was also noted that there is now a superintendent student leadership council that has monthly meetings. This is a new initiative that involves Springhouse Middle School, Orfield Middle School, and Parkland High School students who are receiving leadership training and also giving administration a lot of good feedback about issues that occur at school. This is one of the 3 important groups giving feedback to district leaders. We have this community, the community committee that I'm speaking of, we have a staff committee, and we now have a student committee. All feedback is heard and discussed by the administration to help guide decisions and work towards continuous improvement. The entire group shared and discussed the Parkland School District equity statement. It is presently in draft form, and we discussed it in December in small groups and the administration has made changes from feedback from that meeting and is still in draft form and is to be further refined. Instead of breakout sessions, which were originally on the agenda, we stayed together as a whole group and we had an excellent discussion which covered the following subjects. Ms. Rosario discussed social studies curriculum examples and shared with a timeline on how curriculum is regularly studied and updated. The examples help to demystify how various perspectives are being woven into the curriculum. Brenda spoke about trauma-informed teaching practices that focuses on relationship building between teachers and students. She discussed the uptick of anxiety and depression that we are seeing in the children and the importance of relationship building to address social and emotional needs of our children. Nicole spoke about the possibility of starting at dialogue circles with the intent of providing open forums of conversation for the entire Parkland community to learn from each other. In order for a speaker to make a presentation, they should answer the questions on a page that was highlighted, a web page, and that would be submitted so that the administrative team could review it. We also shared an idea about a unity project that included a donation that had been received. The project would ideally take place at an annual district-wide Festival of Arts held in May. And this would include activities from the Kindness Crusade highlighting those projects. The committee is looking forward to its next meeting, and there was excellent dialogue. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not the time for questions. Moving on to approval of accounts payable. If I can have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Hine?
Comments? Yes. Mr. Foos.
Please note that my affirmative vote on this measure does not in any way support PA cyber charter schools due to the disproportionate funding and the need for a fair funding formula in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
This is Rob Cohen. I concur with Mr. Foos's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Number 19, public comment on non-agenda items. We do have a few tonight. The first is Carl Vinup.
In attending the last school board meeting, I was impressed with the number of people who turned out to support Jay Rahatke. It was said that the vote was not political, but then I found out that my representative in Congress messaged her constituents that they should attend and support Mr. Rahatke. Somehow I didn't get the message, And I wonder how many people on the other side of the aisle got that message also. I wonder if other taxpayers had known of the meeting, would they have attended to support other well-qualified candidates? Their names should also have been posted because when they were introduced, the mask worn by the board president garbled their names. I also had a hard time understanding what they were trying to say because of masks, because of the masks. I feel the mask mandate certainly created problems. Also, with social distancing plus the distance where the speakers stood, they were plenty far from anyone to cause a problem. I'm also here tonight to voice my concern about inclusion of critical race theory, or whatever else it may be called, into the curriculum of Parkland. The jurisdiction or justification of this movement can be made to sound wonderful, but it simply teaches division, pure and simple. If you are white, male, straight, Christian, etc., you are the oppressor. If you are female, LGBTQ, low income, non-Christian, young, etc., you are oppressed. There are pages and pages written about CRT and the opposing views. My feeling is, why are we teaching division rather than bringing people together? No, we will never all look alike or sound alike, but we can all live together as American citizens. The melting pot will certainly be different, but it can once again be the strength of our country. Let us not forget the mottos of our country: e pluribus unum, out of many, one, where we become Americans, not different cultural Americans. Yes, I am very proud of my ancestry, but I am an American. Also, in God we trust is an accepted motto. We should take it seriously when we lay our right hand on the Bible and take an oath, as teachers did 50 years ago, pledging their allegiance to our country. When did we change course and begin to teach division and anti-American thoughts in our schools? Our country was founded on sound principles and not to make everyone join a state religion, but to live a righteous life. Patrick Henry said, "This great country was founded not on religion, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ." George Mason said, "The laws of nature are the laws of God, whose authority can be superseded by no power on earth." We as individuals have made mistakes, as our country has made mistakes, terrible mistakes in the past. It is time we move forward and make our country what it was meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is David Horvath. Mr. Horvath is not here. Jeff Ringer.
Hello, everyone. It's my first time attending a school board meeting. Amazing turnout, very amazing from the community. And I was going to speak about masks, but I don't think I really can add anything from what was already said. There was a lot of obviously there was a lot of thorough research done, and a lot of folks were speaking from the heart and concern about their students, their children. The one thing that I took away from all the folks that spoke about masking tonight was I think they were trusting that all of you were going to be objective and do your own thorough research on masking. There's a plethora of information out there, and if anyone wants it, I can give it to you about the ineffectiveness of masking and also about the negative effects of masking. And I'd be happy to send it to each and every one of you directly if you like. Again, the other thing I took away was that the community is looking for this group to be ahead of the curve and not behind the curve when it comes to decisions on masking. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Beth Whitehill Finch.
Hi again. I would now like to speak about our buses, bus drivers, and the importance of stopping the illegal mask mandate on the buses. Are you aware that per section 5302 of Title 49, United States Code, that school buses are not considered public transportation? I've emailed you all the direct links to find this information, and after reading it myself, I'm completely baffled about why our bus drivers are told to police our children on the school bus when the school buses are not part of this executive order. I also have great concern for our drivers who have been reaching out in fear, saying they are distressed about having to continue masking while driving our children. Many have said that since there is no airflow on the buses, they've felt nauseous, gotten severe headaches, have their glasses fog up, causing them not to be able to see, and even felt faint while driving our children. If our drivers feel this way, try to imagine how the kids feel on the bus. What will you do if the worst case scenario happens in our district? It worsens in the summer months since they have no air conditioning and only windows to open or a small fan they can clip on somewhere to try and stay cool. Seeing as school buses are not at all part of this federal mandate that is mentioned, I request that you end masking on buses immediately to protect the safety of our children and our drivers. Moving on to our teachers and staff who are fearful to show up at these meetings and speak about their feelings. As you know, everything I've said, whether you agree or not, has always been truthful. This is why teachers, staff, and drivers confide in me. I want to know, why is it that anyone would feel so much pressure and panic that they can't come to a public meeting and share their thoughts? Why do I receive messages from distraught teachers who fear losing their jobs if they raise their voices? Why can't these teachers who are so ecstatic about seeing their students' faces for the first time come forward and share that? Why do I have teachers and staff asking me when meetings are? Why aren't they being told what's going on in their very own schools? This is unacceptable, and you have to do better. The unions have to do better. Our teachers and staff should be encouraged to show up and speak their truth, no matter what it is, and they should never feel scared to do so. And one more thing, this is just off the cuff here. It is very, very disheartening, and not to mention just flat out rude, to see someone sitting there rolling their eyes every 5 seconds at comments they don't agree with. You are supposed to be nonpartisan. You are supposed to listen with open ears and an open mind, but we don't see that happening. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Elowidge.
Thank you again, President Hein. This board has a tradition that has helped Parkland be as successful as it has been because it honors traditions and norms of respect, collegiality, hard work, and preparation. I recently read a comment that the culture of an organization can be defined by the worst behavior that it will tolerate. So what are we to make of the board's response to the behavior that unfortunately we've seen from some new board members? We've seen unintentional undermining of our communication plan. We've seen the opposition to adopting the norms and standards of best practices as put forward by the PSBA. We've seen a motion for a change in board policy with complete ignorance of the process of how you do that, coming from a committee on which the board member sits. This isn't the behavior of a serious board member, and this is not the behavior of someone who is trying to serve our children or our community. And we can say as new people come on that there's a learning curve. They don't know and haven't experienced that respect, collegiality, understanding that those who have come before have something to offer. But in light of what's happened in the last week, we can no longer sit idly by and just say, it's the learning curve. There's now a pattern of behavior. And when the board fails to act to enforce the standards and norms that have made us a successful community, they fail. You all fail to uphold those standards and norms. And how can we expect Parkland to continue to be strong when this behavior continues to emanate from behind your chairs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christine Block.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak again. So being a parent is kind of a journey, and like during a pandemic, it's like a roller coaster. And having your firstborn go to school during a pandemic for the very first time is absolutely terrifying. And I don't know. It's not what I thought the kindergarten would be for my daughter. And I felt disconnected from the school and the district, and school board meetings really helped me. This is why I come every week, and this is why I talk to you guys, and I attend the PAC meetings, and I email my teacher and my principal. So it was mentioned today with the presentation, but I just wanted to give a really great shout out to Citronia, because I say a lot of things, but there's a lot of good that's still happening. We had an amazing virtual paint night for our art show. And I'll say it was like a kick in the gut when it was virtual and not in person, because it was right after the health and safety plan revision 2.0 in January. And I talked to Dr. G, and part of my, I don't know, not issues, that's not the right word, but I don't have the right word, is I don't know what before is. I've never had a child in a Parkland School District building. I don't know what a virtual art show looked like in 2020 or in 2019. So I don't know what to expect. I can go on my own experiences, which was not in Parkland. And I talked to Dr. G, and he explained more, and we signed up, and my 6-year-old painted her very own hedgie in the snow, which is framed on her wall. We had to redecorate her entire room for her artwork, which she signed. And it was absolutely amazing. The art teacher, Mrs. Hardy, did an amazing job showing the students on Google Meet how to paint this. And she went above and beyond. And if she can make this virtual art show so amazing, I cannot wait to see what Parkland can do in person. And I'm so excited for that. So I just wanted you to know that we're coming out of it, and I'm feeling more connected, and I'm trying to find the good. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker tonight, Bobby Landon.
I signed in, but I didn't sign the yellow sheet. I thought that's what I was signing. I was outside. I entered an exception to speak. You can speak. I thought I was signing to speak, but apparently.
Right, he's the last that we have the sheet for, but I mean, if you,
I signed the sheet outside.
okay, you can turn one of these in after them. Yeah, if. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to get as much time as I can. Can I go?
You got your 3 minutes.
Hey guys, so I just have just a couple of questions that I would like to request a response on. And it is in regarding to the accounting for the transportation department over the last couple of years. 2 board meetings ago, there was a motion and approved $1 million for new school buses, if I remember correctly. So a couple of questions I have on that is there a report of the cost savings that were realized from not running buses for a couple of months, 3 months, and then there was the time period where we were off on Wednesdays and things like that? And if so, that money realized, is that being applied to the $1 million line item for the new school buses that was approved a couple of board meetings ago? And I'd like to request if I could get a specific response. I know it's not your protocol to respond here in the meeting, but if I could get a specific response on that, that'd be greatly appreciated as a public, something that should be made public. And in regards, because that also includes things like not just not running the buses, but wages, fuel, maintenance, tires, brakes, oil filters, all this stuff adds up. You know, I work in the heavy equipment industry myself. So, another question I had was in regards to the change order that you guys had for Schnecksville, which has come along great. Change order number 2 of adding $15,000 for additional cable running for security cameras, when just in a couple of agenda items before that, there was $42,000+ approved for security cameras and labors, which is a total of $57,000 for security cameras on one building. That seems really, really high. And I was wondering if there was any comparison bids, and if there's going to be any expected overage or kind of crossover, like who's doing the work and that kind of stuff, because that seems, again, just seems really, really high. So if I could request a specific a response on that, and also Agenda 15, the special education agreement between Parkland and Whitehill Copley, was that correct? When will just a response on when that will be made public before it's voted on, as since I do have a child in the district with special needs.
Thank you. We've taken notes, and we'll get back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And sir, I don't have your name. We'll get the ticket, but.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It's Chuck Phillip. Thank you first, Dr. Madison, Mr. Coleman, and Mr. Cohen for acknowledging the 24 emails I've sent over the last few months for the board's review. I don't know if I can do this, but I'd like to make a motion to remove the clause that allowed a board member to be selected not through an election. And also just a question, why is almost every person on the Health and Safety Plan Committee a district employee or board member? But my main topic is the masks. First, I'll just recite the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Choice. That's all we've ever asked for. Wear a mask to protect yourself if you want. If you don't, then don't. If you want to get a vaccine, get a vaccine. If you don't want to get one, don't. Choice. Enough is enough. I coach my daughter's 7th, 8th grade basketball team. Masks are optional while you're playing, but to the topic of fear, speaking up, standing out, every single girl wears a mask on the bench and on the court, because they don't. Who wants to be that first one to not wear the mask when they're allowed to not wear the mask? And also, one of my kids was told by a classmate, have fun getting COVID on Monday when you come in mask optional with no mask. So enough is enough. Stop the fear. I'm grateful to be born in this country. It's not a perfect country, but it's the best country in the history of the world. Our founding fathers were so insightful, had the wisdom when they drafted the Declaration, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. Without these precious documents, we all need to remember our country would look like Australia or New Zealand right now. We, the people, all of us of America and the world, have been lied to by our health experts, the fake news, heads of government. We all need to stop watching mainstream media, the FDA, CDC, who they have no credibility. Start using critical thinking and teaching that to our kids, not to be compliant and just go along, but to speak up, think for yourselves. Begin watching true journalism like Project Veritas, listening to healthcare experts, real healthcare experts like America's frontline doctors. Has anyone stopped and asked yourself any of these questions? Why was a faulty test being used when it was not designed to test for COVID? Why is the FDA petitioning, begging the courts to allow Pfizer to take 75 years to report 300,000 documents of results of the COVID-19 vaccine trials? Why the mandatory push to get every single human on the planet vaccinated? It's all connected. When at least 22,000 US deaths have happened, compared to 25 deaths in 1977 from the swine flu vaccine that was immediately shut down. St. Luke's, Lehigh Valley Health Network, they don't have our children's best interests at heart, and we need to stop focusing on them. Why is the FDA-approved vaccine, Comirnaty, still not available for widespread distribution, and people think it is? It's not approved. Think for yourselves. End the mask mandate. I'm thankful that it's off, but it's still there lingering, and I please, just enough is enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 20, roundtable. Mr. Cohen, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I have no public comments this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilcox?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to go back to the beginning of the meeting and just listening to Dr. Moniz and then Victor himself kind of talking about his radar science project that he's got going and becoming a finalist. And it's just reminded again and again, like how proud I am of our students in the district, what they can accomplish and what they're going forward and doing. I mean, he explained it and I still was like, good for you. Not even sure I'm following along with that. But I also know that they can't do it without the dedicated tutors of our district. So shout out to the teachers who are supporting these students going on to these competitions and doing great things.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I have no comment.
Ms. Fasciano?
Thank you, everybody, for coming out again. We've had great discussions. We've got great comments. It's nice to hear from community. We also hear from emails. Although we don't all reply individually, we read all of them. So I also want to thank Dr. Minotti for her presentation at the beginning for the goals of the district. I know that report is extremely cumbersome to put together for everybody to listen to. I can only imagine the work behind the report. So I just want to thank the administrators, the staff, everybody that contributes to setting those goals and achieving the goals. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hobby?
I'd like to thank everyone who actually came today. I have a very quick prepared note which I wrote while of today's meeting was happening because I wanted to say something. Patience is a virtue and hard work eventually pays off. Be kind and courteous to everyone and empathize even if you don't always agree. These are all lessons we learn as kids. As adults in a divisive society, these are somewhat easy lessons to forget. However, in my mind, in the long run, these habits and trying to be a good person does work, and you can achieve milestones the right way. On January 25th, the Parkland School Board voted 7-1 to appoint me to the board and join me as the 9th member, replacing long-term dedicated board member, Mr. Kennedy, who resigned from this position after his election as the South Whitehall Commissioner. I want to thank all the members of the board for your vote and trust in me. I'll also like to thank everyone else that applied. They deserve applause. It can be nerve-wracking to be interviewed in such a public way. I was so blessed to have so many people who supported me and spoke for my candidacy. I almost had tears in my eyes when I heard them all. I will try my hardest to keep their faith in me. For those who spoke against me, as Mr. Coleman so kindly reminded me, I thank you and appreciate that you came and voiced your opinion. Your voices matter. I will always listen. I may not always agree, but I'll always try to understand each perspective the hardest I can. Every comment gives me an opportunity to become a better person, and that is extremely important to me. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman?
Again, thank you to everyone for coming out and speaking with us. I'd like to take the time to address the mother in the back that spoke about your child being segregated and teased and bullied about an ADA issue. I'm sorry that took place. I can't imagine as a parent how that would feel. You send your kids to school to be taken care of and taught. And kudos to you for keeping cool through this, because everyone knows that I would have not have done that. I would have put something on Facebook very quickly. You know, I would have been all over the place, but kudos to you. And I cannot believe that happened. And I'm sorry as a parent to hear that you went through that at a school so prestigious as Parkland, and it's not acceptable. I'm confident that you'll get a resolution, that the team will find out who it was. But I've heard, stories of gym teachers having a penalty box for mask noncompliance. So I want to believe that those are isolated issues. I just don't know if I actually believe that. But again, I want to make sure that I address you specifically, that that's not okay what happened, and I'm very sorry that did. For the other ones for other people in the room today too, I think it's important that we realize, just to give some background on how long these children have been in masks. I was told by a parent today that her second grade daughter came home And she said for the first time in her school career, she now knows what her friends look like. For 2 years, when they would go out to public places, she doesn't know if she's running into a friend in her class because they don't know what they look like. So just remember that. That is the gravity of the situation here. Again, I can't get over it with your child, and I keep going. I am sorry for that. Again, I want to talk about the January 25th meeting, if I may. It's not supposed to be political. I'm just disturbed if that is true, that the Lehigh Democratic Club was sending people here, and if Democratic Representative Susan Wild was also sending people here, they need to keep it out of the schools. And my other question was just for the administration, just if we ever found out how that, on the January 18th meeting, how that gentleman got into the high school, if we ever heard back from that. But again, thank you to everyone. And I'm happy that we've finally gone maskless, and I hope that this is a long future for us. Thanks for coming.
Ms. Frisbee. Ms. Quintanilla? Ms. Quintanilla, any comments?
I would just like to say my experience from these past 2 days, since I've been able to hear other people's experience, and I would just like to say I'm not here to degrade anybody's experience. I'm sure Ms. Stansky has a different experience than I've had these past 2 days. Oh, sorry. I'm sure Ms. Stansky has had a different experience than I have in the past 2 days, and I'm sure everybody has had experiences different. From what I've had pretty good teachers, and they've all told me, there's no judgment, no nothing in the school. I've been judged, and everybody has had a different experience. I've been judged by people that were in wearing masks, and I've seen judgment to people who weren't wearing masks. So it's just been happening to everybody, and it's just a source of trying to get past this. It's all very new to us. We're all very confused at the moment. It's only been 2 days since this has been lifted. So hopefully as time goes by, this will get more usual, like the masks. Everybody was confused about wearing masks at first, but it got more custom. And now, hopefully now, as things get optional, as time goes on, it'll get more used to, and people won't get judged as much. But it's happening on both sides, not just to one source. And I just want to get that clear. And I'm not here to degrade anybody's experience, because I'm sure it was really awful what happened to everybody. It sucks being judged as a person who has been judged also. So I just want to say that as a student as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Ziegler.
I just want to start with some comments that were made with regard to the January 25th meeting. To start with a quote, "It's easy to make everything a conspiracy when you don't understand how everything works." With regard, we read hundreds of pages of resumes, cover letters, applications prior to the meeting on January 25th. As more than one person pointed out, it would be a challenge to choose a board member based on a 5-minute interview. That is why we read over everything in advance. Review in advance was actually a part of the process. This is similar to our regular board meetings in that we review everything in advance. I have prepared many statements in advance so as to not misrepresent my thoughts. Not every statement is used. It depends on the direction of the meeting. When someone else tries to misrepresent my thoughts, yes, I will react. It has nothing to do with partisan politics. Moving on, I want to express my disappointment that a fellow board member decided to share the news about moving to Tier 2 of our masking matrix prior to the district finalizing the details and sending out communication to our parents and teachers.
Please be quiet.
I truly try to assume positive intent when I look at the actions of others, but I had a hard time with this one. It was entirely inappropriate and unprofessional for him to send out a message as important as this on his Facebook campaign page prior to the district. This was not his message to share, nor was it his decision. The decision came from the administration and was reviewed by the board, the entire board. We asked questions for the administration to answer and voice suggestions. Communication from the district would have gone out to teachers and parents not long after that, containing details and information that supported those changes. Instead, the board, the district, and the teachers received an influx of emails and messages because the announcement did not come through the established channels of communication. You may mention that the meeting was public and therefore the news was not a secret. I think most of us have a pretty good grasp on how social media works. Any member of the public that has shared that information would not have had the same reach as a campaign page. Additionally, a member of the public does not carry the same clout of a school board director. I want to make it clear that I in no way support his actions regarding this. It was disrespectful to our teachers who have spent day after day over the past 2 years working around the clock to make magic happen in our classrooms, and it was a terrible way to communicate this very important information with the school community. I do, however, want to acknowledge the work of our administrative team in bringing forth what I believe are appropriate recommendations for the health and safety plan that respond to the changing conditions in our district and community. I also want to acknowledge the thoughtful questions, discussions, and suggestions of my fellow board members. In other news, I want to thank Dr. Minotti for the mid-year goals update this evening, and I want to congratulate Victor Kai on his accomplishment and thank Ms. Quintanilla, as always, for putting together a presentation to keep us updated on what is happening in our schools. Thank you.
Mr. Foos.
I'd like to take this time to thank Michelle Minotti on an outstanding presentation with regards to the goals we as a community and as a board and as a district have set. I'm beyond thrilled to see where we're at, where we came from, and I'd like to congratulate the finalist again for an outstanding job. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Roth.
Thank you. I first off have to totally agree with Ms. Fasciano on Victor Kai. We are definitely going to see that young man somewhere along the lines. I love it when they really delve in and we had a point where they didn't tell us what their projects were. And then we're like, no, they're here. Let them explain their projects to us. And, a lot of it is, especially with the science related, but, at the same time you understand and you wonder, where are they getting these ideas? So, that was tremendous. And it was great that he was able to come out here tonight. I also want to thank Dr. Minotti for the mid-year goals update. Got to give a shout out to Dr. Madison, though, as part of that. I think that the learning and training of district employees and administrators especially, you're participating in that with these podcasts, not to mention that you're upping our technology, creds, street creds with those. So thank you very much for those. And also, I wanted to mention during the personnel and finance update, but I thought I'd wait till roundtable, John Pfeiffer and Scott Watson with their retirements. John Pfeiffer has just, you know what I mean? He has been a rock for a lot of things in this district. And I know that I can go to him with anything at all that was up there with any sort of questions. He would get right back. He was just wonderful, just a caring individual, and everything he did for the students, always has, always will. And Dr. Watson, I've been to a lot of concerts and everything up there, and some of the ones that were our most innovative and remarkable concerts, you found out later, no surprise, he had a hand in that somehow. He's written music, but he transfers that love of music onto his students, and we're going to miss him a lot. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Again, those who are watching online. This isn't easy. We are making steps. We're making strides. We are working to do the best we can for everyone in this district. We are trying to work together. We are taking input from everybody. We are hearing everybody. We are meeting, discussing the issues, discussing the differing point of views to come to an agreement. Maybe not everybody agrees on one side or the other, but we are doing this for the district. We need to do this as a community. We need to do it respectfully, and I will continue to do that from this seat and from the community myself. So I appreciate everybody coming out and expressing their opinions and giving us your input. Those who have given us questions, we will get back to you. That is all I have tonight. Excuse me. Now is not the. You are out of order, sir. You are out of order, sir. You are out of order. Thank you, Dr. Madsen. Any comments?
I do. Yeah. Thank you.
You are out of order, sir.
President Hein, I move to adjourn.
If you let me have a comment. Appreciate it. Thank you. So first of all, sometimes it's good to go last, and other times it's not so good to go last, especially in an evening like tonight. The first thing is I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your comments. I want to thank the community, families, parents, students that are here, both to make comments and also as our representative. We know how difficult it is to get up and speak and talk about what you're passionate about and how you feel. And there are times where, as we've talked before, that questions are answered on the spot. Other times, information needs to be gathered. We're able to get back to people. We take notes on what those questions are. And I do pride myself, and I think as an administrative team, in getting back to people in terms of what their questions are, hopefully in a timely manner as much as possible. A couple things that were already said, so I'll try not to spend a lot of time, but I want to thank Dr. Minotti. I want to thank the entire administrative team and the staff. Those goals, although that was long and it's not always enjoyable for everybody, and it's a tedious process, and sometimes it may be even boring to hear. But the one thing that I'm very appreciative of in this district and with the staff, the administration, and the board is those documents aren't just there to sit as placeholders. They're goals, but they're action items and they're action steps that we take, and it kind of drives our work for the whole year, something I'm very appreciative of. So, there, Dr. Minotti came in, so everybody has said thank you to you. So now that you're here, we can say it again. But the work of your team and the administrative group and the entire staff really to get us where we are in very difficult situations. And a lot of those goals may or may not have anything to do with where we are in the pandemic, yet some of the access and academic success and some of the growth that we are seeing and some of the things that happen, I want to shout out to everybody for that. I want to also say that I want to thank Dr. Pfeiffer and Dr. Watson. I did get to know both of these, I'm going to say young men, even though they've been here for a long time, very well since my tenure began, and they will be sorely missed within this district, both in very different capacities, but 37 years and 35 years respectively. That's a lot of knowledge, a lot of institutional knowledge, a lot of experience, touched countless lives in our district, and we're certainly going to miss that. I do want to say to Ms. Varga that certainly that's something that I will follow up with you on as well in what you shared with us this evening. As far as the health and safety plan, we did communicate out what those changes would be. This is something that obviously has been an ongoing process since even before, really, as we all know, for several years now. And this particular health and safety plan was devised in the summer and revised a few times through that would allow Parkland School District to make changes and edits and modifications as we felt that was appropriate. And for some, it's been too slow. And for others, it's now too fast. And that's something we certainly understand. We try to take a very guarded approach and a measured approach in looking at all of the data and being consistent in the thought process and the decision-making that we make, whether we agree or disagree. And I certainly understand that. And as you can imagine, since Monday, have received maybe a couple calls and emails of which to talk about this. And I'm more than happy to have those conversations with anyone really at any time to go through some of the thought process of administration and also then the approval from the health and safety plan of the school board. So again, I know Mr. Hines said it is a difficult time. It continues to be a difficult time, even when we see positive signs everywhere, which is why the administration made the decision that we did. It wasn't based on one day. It wasn't based on 1 week. This was several weeks, every day, reviewing where we're at, using the same data points to make this recommendation. Everyone in this room, I believe, hopes that that continues and we won't have any other movement in any other direction, myself included. But we also know that we don't know where this will turn. But I'm confident and I'm optimistic that we're going to continue to be in a positive situation. There were a couple things that I do want to just add that I think are important to note. That there were some comments, and I don't want to get into all of the details, but I know that the CRT comment continues to arise. I would implore, maybe, probably going to get the name wrong. I wrote it down. Mr. Vinup, is that correct? Am I saying that right? Yes. Okay. That certainly, again, I'm open to have a conversation with you to kind of misspell some of the misconceptions that you might have in what we do here in Parkland. and I would be glad to do that. Something that we have worked through and worked on with committee members, with community members to open up and make sure that we're having positive dialogue on this. And so if you take me up on that, I certainly will take that information and give you a call. Again, we appreciate everybody coming. Some of these questions that you have will be answered and taken under advisement, as we have for everything else. And I would implore everybody, even in difficult situations, even when we don't agree, that we have to be respectful of each other and we have to respect what everyone says at all times. Not only when it's something we agree with, but at all times. And I know sometimes it's hard because you're passionate about what you believe in, as we all are. But we won't get through this. We won't be more productive if we can't listen to each other. So I want to make sure that we continue to do that. And at any time that anybody has a question or wants to talk about something, many of you in this audience have taken me up on that. And I hate to say it because I don't want to get 10,000 calls, but if I do, we'll answer every one of those the best that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to adjournment, we will be adjourning for executive session for labor relations and litigations. If I could have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any opposed? The next board meeting is March 15th at 7 p.m. Committee meetings, March 7th at 5, 6, and 7.